Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Commission meeting for April 12, 2022. I'd like to call to order. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor McGurk.
Here.
Commissioner Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner Colodi.
Present.
Commissioner Sachs.
Here.
And Mayor Owen is absent. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. The mayor sends his regard. He is not able to attend tonight. He's a little bit under the weather.
Mr. Vice Mayor, make a motion to excuse the mayor's absence.
Second the motion.
Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Sachs.
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi.
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to, Police Department Chaplain Sheila Turner is going to give the invocation, and we will then have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together one more time this evening, making decisions for this city. We thank you for the wisdom and the patience and the understanding about these concerns for this city. We thank you, Father, for all things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Manager, is there anything that you need to be with the public, anything we need to pull or with the
Yes, sir.
agenda tonight?
I have 3 items to be changed. Item number 1 is removing item 6D on consent, CRA grant award. Item number 2, continuing item 6F on consent, and that is the PD position recruitment, and that will be moved to April 26th meeting agenda. And also, this is to move item 9C, ordinance number 12-22, from first readings to second readings, public hearings, and it would be as an item 8D. So item 9C will be moved to 8D. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. Okay, we have a proclamation for Water Conservation Month. I would like to invite Maintenance Operation Director David Ray. Testing. Testing. Dave, welcome. Proclamation proclaiming the month of April as Water Conservation Month. Whereas water is a basic and essential need for every living creature, and whereas the state of Florida Water Management District and the city of New Smyrna Beach are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation, and whereas the city of New Smyrna Beach and the state of Florida has designated April typically a dry month when water demands are most acute, Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources. And whereas the city of New Smyrna Beach has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events, and whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can help by saving water, thus promote a healthy economy and community. Now, therefore, Russ Owen, Mayor, City of New Smyrna Beach, do hereby proclaim April as Water Conservation Month. Thank you. I'd like the commission to come up real quick. I think everybody loves water conservation. Everybody can get behind it, so I'd like a group picture on this. Well, we got a full house. We're actually having to put out more seats. Thanks, guys. We have a lot of proclamations, all mean a lot of things, and I can tell you that water conservation is definitely something that every single person in this community can certainly appreciate. Next presentation is going to be the New Smyrna Beach Parks Master Plan Final Draft. I would like to invite VHB Director in Planning and Design, Roberta Fennessy, and Katie Shannon to the podium at this time for the presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners, for having us here. Mr. City Manager, Assistant City Manager, we're really excited to be here. To reiterate, Katie and I are with VHB Engineering Firm. We're community planners, and we've been working on this Parks Master Plan for all of you, for your beautiful city, for a good part of the last year. As planners, we always say we work everywhere, but we really love to work in the places that we care about and that we spend time in. And New Smyrna Beach is one of those places. And driving over from Orlando just now, that amazing quality of the city really came through to us. So.
We're full, I'm sorry.
I'm going to turn it over to Katie, who's going to kick us off, but we'll talk a little bit about the process that we underwent. The picture of the document you see is a full, very comprehensive report. We're going to kind of give you the highlights in our presentation of the recommendations, the key takeaways and recommendations, which really began with a lot of input from your community. So I'll let Katie get us started.
Thanks, everyone. And I'll reiterate that it's really wonderful to be here again tonight as a park goer of many of actually New Smyrna Beach's parks alongside Orlando's. It's just those places that you go to and seek to love, and especially for our kids to get out in the parks. We're really excited to present some of the ideas that came up through this process. So I'm going to cover basically the project overview, those data points, and the type of feedback that we heard that went into the development of this plan. So the goal that we were tasked with is to create a guiding document, a long-term guiding document that would, give an idea of what the long-term investment in the city's park systems might look like. But we wanted to also pay homage to the principles that the Parks Division has in place, which you can see here before you. So those are to keep all of the city's parks clean, safe, and usable for everyone to enjoy. Of course, to provide excellent public service, to create a positive experience, to create a culture of sustainability, to manage the parks and green spaces in a sustainable manner, to ensure fiscal responsibility, and then to manage the parks efficiently. So the development of the Parks Master Plan did occur over 6 key phases. The first phase, which you can see up on the top left-hand side, was to conduct a context review. So we worked with city staff to receive any sort of regulatory frameworks that would define future park spaces, get a better understanding of the existing park spaces that you have. But we did also look into other cities and state guidance in particular on what kind of standards might be put in place to help to substantiate this long-term vision. In phase 2, we got out in your beautiful city, visited all 37 of the existing parks, did a pretty comprehensive inventory, which was actually GIS-based. We came out with tablets and created a digital record of all of the park assets at each one of the 37 parks, and at the same time started to identify some wonderful opportunities and maybe some of those constraints for future improvement as well. Phase 3 consisted of some community engagement, which did occur late in 2020, so the majority of that engagement was online, but we created a virtual meeting room, which we'll share with you, as well as conducted or got feedback via a community survey. So the needs assessment, that's the more quantitative side of the report we pulled together, which considers things like level of service analyses, looking to other similarly sized cities to see how New Smyrna Beach looks as a comparable to the acres of parks per resident, type of amenities per resident, et cetera. And then the reason, of course, we're here to meet with you today is to share the master plan And then we did also, of course, I see some of the commissioners we met with previously here had some city commission meetings to discuss draft elements of the plan and get feedback that way as well. So brief overview of the needs assessment. Again, we did come out and physically assess all 37 parks, created a ranking category, which was pretty simple, but just whether or not we're seeing that the different amenities, so benches, trash cans, all those kind of things, whether or not they're in poor condition, so they might need to be serviced in the near-term future. Adequate condition, meaning they'll be good for a few years on out, and then good condition, seeing that many of the parks, honestly, have been even recently updated, which was really great to see. And then we also conducted a level of service summary. So those were those terms where I had brought up, assessing the amount of acres per resident, but we also assessed from a point of access, how many people can actually walk to a neighborhood park, community park, which is really important. And then also trying to understand the type of facilities, whether they be ball fields, tennis courts, et cetera, how many of those you have per resident here. And this also coincided with you can see here some of the sister cities we studied. So we looked at the city of Oviedo, Ormond Beach, which is pretty proximate to us here in New Smyrna Beach, the city of Winter Springs, and the city of Port Orange as well, to kind of assess what they were doing and maybe adopt some of their best practices if we saw it fit. So in the appendix of the final report, you'll see there is a digital copy of that park's inventory. There's just a few examples of what that looked like. The example on the right-hand side, you can see it's Riverside Park. But this was a physical, check mark and calculation of how many different assets were available at each site. We took notes on, again, their condition, trying to document any needs for future maintenance or renovations. So some of the need assessment results, preliminarily understanding the city is actually doing very well with the acres of park that you provide per resident. In fact, you actually beat out the other cities, if you will. So it's really great to see that you're providing those kind of amenities. You also have a wonderful diversity of facility types when we look to make those comparisons, as well as the quality of assets. The city has done a wonderful job of maintaining those parks overall, and I think we can thank the Parks Division for that too. But the biggest gap appears to be, so this is what Roberta's going to cover here in a minute, is that there's some gaps in neighborhood or community parks, which are those multifaceted, multidimensional parks, especially on the west side of town, west of I-95. And then we do have some recommendations for city staff to pursue. One of those things would be to update the level of service standards and some of the land use regulations in place that would help, again, guide the development of parks in the future. So a quick overview of the community engagement. We did host a virtual meeting room in which we had, in a virtual space, invited people to come and look at a series of boards to have a better understanding of some of the ideas that we could propose in something like this. And then we did conduct an online survey, which received 155 responses. I have a few brief slides on some of those results. But you can see here that the top 3 favorite parks, people really seem to love 27th Avenue Park. Next up was actually Indian River Lagoon Park. And then the last one, or the third ranked park, would be Riverside Park. And then we did ask a question about which parks had the most potential for improvement. So you can see the 3 here that kind of came up as those top scoring options for improvement would be Calalisa, the North Causeway boat ramps, Rocco Park, and the multi-use trail. So we did ask residents or people who are participating in the survey what kind of facilities they would most like to see with future improvements or new park spaces. So pretty passive elements overall. People really wanted to connect with nature. Probably no surprise, New Smyrna Beach is absolutely gorgeous. So people just want to, tap back into the beautiful trees, the beach, et cetera, that we have in New Smyrna Beach. Providing means of active transportation choices. So you can see here both walking and running trails or biking and skating trails are popular, but really trying to also amenitize the water. A lot of these parks have water access, so trying to bring people in or have people depart from our park systems via kayak or paddleboard. And then last but not least, a top asset people were looking for would be some areas to walk their best friend, their dogs. Overall, we did ask a question on what type of improvements should receive the highest priority. So you can see here the top scoring option was to focus on maintaining the parks that you already have. Number 2 would be to actually add additional park space. And then the third option, coinciding with some of those connectivity issues I had brought up, would be to improve access to park via trails and sidewalks. So we did meet with some of the city commissioners, the mayor and city manager, to get some initial input on some draft ideas that we had. So you can see there's some very brief bullet points on a couple hours worth of conversations that we had where we synthesized some of their input. So one of the things that came up was to kind of pick 2 or 3 locations for larger community parks, particularly, again, trying to pay attention to some of the space or opportunities on the west side of the city, as well as to create what would be considered a destination park, something that's a namesake to the city along the highly visible SR 44 corridor. There was a comment to provide a community center, which would be a multi-use space. We saw a really great example of that at the city gym, where people can use that for cards. You can have different meetings and presentations there. Another idea, which I briefly covered, would be to implement new policy actions or provide some recommendations to update the land development code. In particular, what are the requirements when we're looking to approve the future of planned unit developments in the community, so making sure that they're setting aside some space for public parks. And then I'll cover a little bit of this, but we did want to make sure that, whatever demographic trends were being shown for the future, that the proposed spaces met what the demographic might look like in the future. And last but not least, just to really provide some high quality visuals within the document to help people see and kind of feel what these proposed spaces might look like. So this is just a very brief overview of the growth trends. As seen on the map on the right-hand side here, the darker area does portray where the city is anticipated to see the highest amount of growth. Perhaps no surprise, I feel like the downtown core and the beaches are pretty well built out. And then population growth is still continued to increase overall, coinciding with an increase, of course, in housing units. And then any sort of commercial development would largely, of course, happen along the SR 44 corridor. Looking to demographic trends, we pulled some information from the census and used an Esri-based tool called Business Analyst, which actually ties in some purchasing information, purchasing data on the type of, that gets correlated with demographic information to have a better understanding of who's moving here, who's wanting to live in New Smyrna Beach. So generally an older population. And on the right-hand side, you can see here, this is a business analyst report where it can assess more or less the type of activities, sport and leisure activities in particular, that people might participate in. So you can see walking, biking, swimming, and access to the beach were pretty dominant in that demographic trend. So with that, I'm actually going to pass the mic over to Roberta.
Thank you. So Katie gave you a good snapshot of kind of all the ingredients that went into kind of our research, our due diligence, our analysis. And I'm going to quickly summarize some of the guiding principles and takeaways from the plan, which really are heavily rooted in that public input and what we heard from community members. And so our guiding principles became enhance what we have, so really invest in what's already here and leverage those assets. Expand our reach, so prioritize areas that don't have that access to park, and focus on kind of what we call building block parks, so neighborhood and community parks. And the last one, and to me probably the most interesting, was the desire to connect it all together. So how do we expand the trail segments, the connectivity, the bikeability, the walkability within the parks? So as for enhance what we have, we really responded to the community input where major enhancements were identified and desired for Calalisa Park, Indian River Lagoon, and the North Causeway East Boat Ramp. When we think of those enhancements, we would like to have them align with kind of the focus areas that the top assets that were also desired in the communities. For the enhancements, we looked at sort of just an order of magnitude in our inventory and our needs assessment. So we categorized the level of proposed enhancements in kind of minor, maintain, and major, with maintaining mean investments that would be under $50,000, minor improvements between 50 and 100, and major improvements over 100. So that was also correlated with the level, with the condition analysis that we did as part of that inventory and those field observations. And so we have all of that documented in the report for you all. The second principle of expanding our reach, we really focused on those two areas, those two types of park spaces that were identified as being in need of most, being neighborhood parks and community parks. And so the distinction we see is in their size and their capacity and what kind of programming and amenities they provide. So neighborhood parks being slightly smaller, 2 to 5 acres, which is still sizable, but really focused at the neighborhood scale with a mix of passive and active uses, and taking advantage of nature and unique parks. So we proposed 5 new parks in this study, or in this report. We also made some recommendations of where these new parks might be located, generalized. So we mapped existing neighborhood parks, so the existing parks that we fit into that category. We also overlaid and looked at parts of the city that were already serviced by private recreational facilities, so that our recommendation of where maybe these new neighborhood parks should go should be in areas that are sort of in that in-between, don't really have any access to those private areas, but are maybe a little further away from existing neighborhood parks, and so focusing on those areas. The next level of expansion we categorize as community parks. Those are larger, 10 to 30 acres, and really focused on active and passive sports facilities, recreational trails, serving multiple neighborhoods, a little bit more of a destination feel than kind of the everyday neighborhood parks. We identified 5 parks that might be expanded and included in the park system. We also looked spatially and geographically where those might be. And I think in response to a lot of that input from both the community and the commissioners, we identified areas west of I-95, both north and south of State Road 44 as potential areas for these larger parks, community parks. And the last piece, connected all together. So there's already a trail system throughout the city, and really connecting those segments would be an important and I think received enhancement for the city residents. We identified some guidelines for how to connect these trail segments, so multi-use, recreation-focused trails, connecting to existing assets so that we can improve those, and also incorporating bike and ped link where existing. So again, we took it to the maps, we identified where those trail access points were, and visualize some possible connections and extensions of these access to enhance that system. So a big piece of this too, in response to the request from the city, so to align with being financially responsible in funding and understanding the level of impact. So we did a cost estimate of all of these proposed new parks and also the enhancements. And so that is very detailed in the report. I'm not a finance person, so we won't get into it, but we have that data, and we have our landscape architects work really closely with us to come up with those figures. And as you see our caveat, this was done in fall 2021, and we all know the fluctuations we've experienced in the market, so I'll just leave it at that. But in preparing these cost estimates, we really looked at each of the programs and the elements individually, and then collectively what that impact would be at a dollar scale per park. We also, as far as implementing, made some recommendations for funding options, and last but not least, some policy actions that we think would be important and helpful for the city to be able to enhance, expand, and connect the park systems a little bit better. Recommended schedule. I know we're a little over our time, so I am going to leave it here and turn it over to the commission for any questions that you might have. We're happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Fennessy, Ms. Shannon. Comments by the commission?
Question?
Hold on. Mike, go ahead. He raised.
He's got a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Jake.
Do you assess or make recommendations for improvements to the parks? Take
Yes.
one, Calalisa.
So we did, and that was part of the enhance. So with Calalisa, I think access to the water was one of the enhancements that we had a lot of feedback on, so we included that. So kind of, whether it's kayak or paddleboard launches, or decks or docks, we looked at those elements, those programmatic elements of enhancement.
Did you look at landscaping for that particular park? Landscaping for that park?
Landscaping, we consider that as well. We, in our cost estimate and our kind of conceptual enhancement proposal, we looked at kind of hardscape versus softscape, access, benches, things that were, and that tied back into our inventory, right? So if we found that there weren't any kind of waste bins or even a seating facility at a lot of these parks, we included those in the enhancements. And some of the parks, Calalisa is small, but there are a few things that might enhance the experience there, right? So we kind of gave you guys an a la carte option.
So I noticed that Pettis, the Linear Park, Indian River Lagoon, and there was one more that had poor ratings. You do give recommendations to improve those?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'm surprised. These are some of my favorites, and Pettis seem to be in fair shape, but if you see their deficiencies, I would greatly appreciate hearing from you on that.
Yeah, and we try, in the master plan, we have itemized kind of, and the inventory really is the heart of where we got the recommendations, so you can see where are they compared with the amenities and the facilities that are missing or deficient.
And I don't want to idolize your time, but these are important questions to me. The parks mean a lot to me and our city. The new park, Turnbow Creek, have you visited that site and believe we could make any improvements to that park? Because it's very passive right now and has no access.
Have you been to that one?
Yeah,
It's off Otter Trail, the
Yeah.
multi-use trail.
Yeah.
Yep.
So most of the improvements do actually speak to, and I know that there's a very active cycle culture here, and people clearly through the survey results love to walk. So a lot of the improvements for that one did focus on enhancing, it's just bike and ped connectivity to that site. Yeah.
Do you think it's overuse that has harmed some of the parks?
When we're overused,
Yes.
yes, I mean
Overloved?
Yeah. I mean, of course, with more use and more wear and tear, things do deteriorate a little bit more over time. I know that we did unfortunately conduct the inventory through the pandemic, so I don't think the park numbers would have been as high as they would if we were to go back out there and do that today. But some of the parks, like Pettis Park, that did appear to be the most active, people were actively using that space, did show some wear and tear through all of that use, of course. So, yeah.
And that's a really good question. In our level of service analysis, you'll see that our categories we assigned were
Yes.
minor enhancements, major, and then maintain, right? So even the high-performing parks need that level of investment to maintain so that they don't fall into disrepair from overuse, right?
Thanks for taking that outside look and your hard work. Appreciate it.
Mike?
No questions. I had the opportunity to speak with both you ladies for an hour before this meeting. I had about 12 items I had concerns with, which I'm only going to speak on 5. Based on my past life as a professional engineer and planner, I realize how difficult these type of studies are to do. There are so many intricate little ways that people use parks, and you're faced with trying to gather all that information and put it down in something comprehensive that we can work with for the next 20 or 30 years. I don't think that can be done, but you really gave it a good shot. You speak about reaching out to the public and having all the various meetings based on the information that you've given. you got a response back from 0.5% of our population. Not unusual at all. But what it does do, it brings out the people who have dedication, in this case to parks, and doesn't necessarily reach out to the general population. So you did a good job at trying to deal with that. I did find a couple areas. One is when you talk about Calisa Park and the North Boak ramp, North Causeway. I think you got your easts and wests mixed up for your priorities. And if this is approved, I would expect that you would be making those minor type of changes in accordance with your contract. Where I find that we have a really big issue that has not been addressed by this or any commission for the last 20 years is an issue that has put us in the position we're in now. We approve a development, might have 1,000 homes, might have 5,000 people living in it, and in all these PUDs, we had really no provision to put active open space, whether that be developed as a community park, a neighborhood park, a passive park. It hasn't been done. I'm going to push this commission to change our land development ordinance so that that's an important provision. When I first came on, we passed one to protect wetland buffers. That has helped with density, trying to control it. But this is very important. We're now sitting here with an $81 million bill. The big ticket items are to cover up for all those mistakes made in the past by not putting this land aside for our use. Whether they developed it or not as a park, doesn't really matter. It's the land. You can't get the land. A couple of your neighborhood parks, one of the other items, there's almost no way to put them where you say to put them. The land doesn't exist. It might be restricted by wetlands. It might have sporadic development through it. So we missed the boat on some of those. One problem I did have with your report is when you put those private recreational facilities, those 4, with big green X's on our report, they showed land set aside for recreation. And that tends to construe importance that maybe we don't need something in that particular area. 4 of them are private golf courses. They're recreation, but they're not open to us unless we pay a fee, and in some of them you can't even pay a fee. There's golf courses I'd like to play here that I can't because I'm not a member. So that's not public recreation to me. So.
And I'll just comment that, if I may, that's why they were an X. Because we wanted to recognize
Yes.
that they offer
Existed.
a recreational experience, but not a publicly accessible.
Right, but
Yeah.
we're the public entity here, so we
Right,
gotta
yeah.
we gotta work for everybody sitting out here and everybody who didn't fill out a questionnaire. So basically, what I take out of your whole report is that we've neglected everything west of 95 completely. We've neglected other areas in the town where we can no longer get facilities in. One we might, Page Avenue. That's about the only available tract of land where we can do something major. So the focus has to be on implementing a lot of the recommendations you have, because they are, for the most part, very good. But we gotta get to our land development ordinance and prevent this problem that was created with all these PUDs and make sure we don't make it any worse. Because there are good-sized tracts of land that are not PUDs at this point. And we have to be able to control the fact we need recreation throughout the entire town. So good report. I support it. A couple little changes, and we're good.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So thank you both for all the hard work that you put into this. This was one of the ideas that I was kind of pushing for a couple of years. And it brings home the point that Mike kind of alluded to, and you know what I've known for a long time is there's nothing west of 95. And that seems to be a major concern. That's also where most of our park impact fee money is coming from. So I think that this commission at some point in time is going to have to recognize that and take those steps. I like your program, and I like your presentation where you actually included those ideas about zoning changes and PUD amendments, those sort of things. So something that we're going to have to look forward to. One thing your $85 million didn't include, though, was land cost. So, you know, just so the public realizes that, who knows what those numbers would be in today's economy and today's market. But I thank you for the extensive work that you did. You know, you're very thorough in everything you did. I especially like the check sheet, you know, the little checklist. I think it's going to give David a lot of headaches in the years to come, and a lot of things for him to worry about and to think about as years go through and as we go through this budget process. So I appreciate everything that you did. I think you did a very good, thorough job, and it certainly is appreciated by me anyway. So thank you.
Thank you. I guess at this point, the only thing that I have to add to it is, I think you did a great job. I think it's accurately identified, I think, the problems in the community with our parks and open spaces. And the one that hits me the most is, you know, the gap you talked about. We don't have much open space. We have this tendency to want to have a park, and all of a sudden we need to put structure after structure after thing after thing. And I know we don't have just soccer fields and fields where kids can play soccer, fly a kite, play some tackle football. There's one little area in back of the football field at the sports complex. Everybody uses that for javelin throwing, hitting golf balls, soccer, football, you name it, it's done. So I think that hits home. You know, the passive parks, yes, hiking trails, we need a lot of those kinds of amenities. And so the idea of, you know, building a park and not necessarily filling it full of structures is important. And I think someone said, you know, parks mean something different to different people, depending on how they want to use it. So I appreciate your time spent on this. I think you guys did a very good job. So appreciate it, and we'll certainly be evaluating and getting back in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now that we have done the presentation of the Parks Master Plan, I'm going to open up public participation. Now,
One thing first, before that. Should we make a motion to officially accept this report at this time?
Well, sure, we could, if you'd like to make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion, we accept the report, including the recommendations contained therein. Understanding there are certain minor, not graphical changes, but minor changes that need to be added, and they will be made by the developer of the report.
All right.
At no cost.
Is there a second?
No, second.
All right, seconded by Sachs. Kelly, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Going back to getting going with public participation. This is a full chambers tonight. I'm sure you're not all here to see me run a meeting with the mayor being out. So what I would like to do is I would appreciate normal decorum. If there's an issue, no chanting, no cheering, no clap. Let's keep normal decorum and make sure that when you speak, you're speaking to the commission, you're not speaking to the audience. Thank you. Public participation is officially open. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Bob Williams, 767 Pine Shore Circle in New Smyrna Beach. I'm here tonight, Commissioners and Vice Mayor, to speak in support of Ordinance 722 for the Comprehensive Plan Amendment defining the Commercial Space Industry Opportunity Overlay in the Future Land Use Plan. In addition to being a citizen, I'm also here representing the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce. The quality of life in our community is dependent on a vibrant economy with diverse businesses providing high-paying jobs to our working citizens. The New Smyrna Beach adopted economic development strategy has identified light industry manufacturing as a primary opportunity to provide high-wage jobs to our community. A recent study of the Volusia County commercial space supply chain manufacturing opportunity has validated that we are well positioned to take part in this fast-growing $348 billion industry. It's important to note that not only are these high-paying jobs, but they are clean, high-tech industry. Most of the companies producing components to support the manufacturing and logistics of small satellites and launch support are in facilities that would be almost indistinguishable from a medical or other Class A office building. These are exactly the type of high-tech manufacturing companies that complement our environmentally friendly strategy. Recruiting these types of companies is a highly competitive process, as they are coveted by every progressive community. In fact, in Brevard, they're currently investing over $400 million in infrastructure to pave the way for these companies. For New Smyrna Beach to compete for a portion of these jobs, we must take a regional approach, collaborating with our Southeast Volusia cities and with the economic development professionals of Volusia County. Team Volusia, our economic development recruitment lead partner, is actively reaching out across the aviation and aerospace industry to attract these companies, but they need our help by putting supportive public policies in place. Volusia County, Edgewater, and Oak Hill have already gotten on board with this proposal. We need to complete the process for the Southeast Volusia region. So in conclusion, this initiative is important to all our citizens in New Smyrna Beach. Whether working or retired, bringing clean, high-paying jobs is essential for New Smyrna Beach to sustain itself as a vibrant community. These companies diversify our economy with good jobs, but also with capital investments that broaden our tax base to reduce the tax burden on our residents. These advanced manufacturing jobs also bring working families, and the spouses of these employees in these companies will include the nurses that take care of us in the hospitals and the hospitality staff that serve us in restaurants and retail centers. This initiative will improve the quality of life for all of us. We respectfully request that you support the approval of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I want to City Attorney, the item on parking waiver, we're going to have public participation during that item, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So before anyone comes up, I do want to say that if you're here to speak on an item that's going to come up later in the agenda, that would be your time to speak. I'm not going to let you double dip, so to speak, so you can speak during public participation. But if your specific item comes up, or then best to speak at that time. If you're speaking on something on consent agenda, now would be the time to do that. And again, be mindful of the 3-minute limitation. Name and address for the record. Thank you.
Kathy Jo Douglas, 1200 South Riverside Drive. Thank you so much, members of the council, for putting us on the agenda for traffic calming on South Riverside Drive. A special thanks to Kyle Fegley for working with me for over a year, working the steps of the newly voted in traffic calming manual. There are many, many steps, and it's not easy to be eligible for traffic calming on your street. As you know, when the speed cushions were installed on Magnolia, it just took the whole problem on Magnolia, which was a problem, but it moved over to our South Riverside Drive, and I believe it's worsened. Heavy volume and vehicle speeding now occur daily. It is certainly a danger to all who walk, jog, and bike on our street, which is a lot of people. They enjoy coming to it. It's a very picturesque and scenic drive, which is great. Also, the residents that live on South Riverside, when they try to walk across to their boat or they're across the street, You wouldn't believe the number of stories on how many people are almost hit or somebody had to slam on their brakes. I mean, it's not going to be very long until somebody gets hit. People are going very fast. In fact, in the study, the traffic study we performed, people have been clocked at up to 80 miles an hour on South Riverside Drive. 75% of the residents on South Riverside Drive have agreed or have signed the traffic calming request form. That's a huge number of residents that agree that South Riverside Drive traffic has become a danger to our community. We do believe that the proposed changes that Kyle Fegley has outlined in Phase 1 is a start, but certainly not enough to change the dangerous traffic situation. Before the vote is taken on Phase 1, the residents and I would like for the Commission to amend the motion on the vote of Phase 1 to include that Phase 2, which I believe is still not fully developed, would then be implemented as soon as possible after Phase 1 is complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. My name is Richard A. Howarth, Jr. My wife Jill and I own a home on Riverside Drive at 1112 South Riverside Drive. We purchased the property in 2013. When we purchased our property, Riverside Drive was a quiet street. We saw more joggers, dog walkers, and bikers than cars and trucks. Sometime last year, all that changed. Now we have more cars and trucks on Riverside Drive than on I-95. According to the city engineer study, we have 3,000 to 4,000 cars a day using our small 2-lane roadway. What caused this traffic problem? I'm sorry to say, but you did that. You, the council, decided that you should take all the traffic off A1A, take it off Magnolia, and put it on Riverside. And to do that, you erected a series of speed bumps on Magnolia Street, which had that effect. According to the traffic study compiled by the city engineer, that now causes us to see 3,000 or 4,000 cars and trucks a day using Riverside Drive. From my traffic study, that converts to 200 to 300 cars an hour during the busy times of the day. While during the same time, we have less than 20 cars per hour on Magnolia Street. My only comment to my wife, I'm sorry, so the speed bumps have done the job for Magnolia, but the speed bumps have created a safety problem for Riverside Drive. We actually have no police presence on Riverside Drive. I've never seen a police vehicle stop any of the speeders on Riverside Drive. No one using the street follows the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I have to correct that because my wife told me that was wrong. When she was walking a couple of weeks ago, she did see a police vehicle stop a car, and she assumed it was for speeding. That's the first time I remember since 2013 when I've seen that happen. You as a governmental organization have solved one problem and created another one. We who live on the street are asking for your help. I received in the mail the proposal by the city engineer. When I saw it, all I could say was he must be joking. How in the world would he expect 2 stop signs and a few speed limit signs to stop 4,000 cars a day from coming into Riverside Drive? I have 2 solutions. Number 1, remove all the speed bumps on Magnolia and add additional stop signs on Magnolia. Or 2, close off the Magnolia entrance off A1A and keep all that traffic from coming into our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Angie Beretta Herman. I live at 108 Esther Street. I'm here because I've had the honor of being the co-chair of 2 very successful historic preservation events on March 24th of this year. The first one was the home tour that was with my co-chair Lorraine Sharp. We had over 400 people come through to look at some homes that we are featuring as a way to actually honor the historic buildings in our city. I was so surprised that we sold out again. This is our 4th time we've done the tour. We've sold out prior to the event, even though we were facing very inclement weather. The second event was one we did in conjunction with the museum, which is a preservation award event in which we tried to honor both preservation and restoration of our historic buildings in our city. That event actually sold out to 225 people in about 1 week. So what I'm saying to you is I want to first thank you for your support, thank Khalid for his support with our events and all of the staff of the city, and I also want to congratulate all the people who took part in these 2 historic events. What this meant is we had over 700 people involved in those 2 events on one day. I think it really does show how much interest our community has in our historic legacy and retaining our historic buildings in our city. So what my ask of you is, I'd ask you, each of your commissioners, I ask that the city staff always look at every implementation of any provision, any work that you do, through the lens of historic preservation. What is that going to mean for our historic legacy in this city? We all know how important our history is, how important our legacy is to our visitors and to our economic viability. So I ask for your support in the future and want to thank everybody for their support of these 2 events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Norma Donovan, and I live at 412 Oliver Drive. We've always been told to lean into failure. Great learning comes from failure, but come to find out, not so much. Failing is not fun. It's a blow to our self-esteem, so we're not really open to taking an objective look at why we failed. Maybe that's why Chick-fil-A continues to make the same mistake over and over again, namely putting restaurants on unsuitable sites. Creating the disruption Chick-fil-A causes to neighboring businesses, residents, and traffic is a failure. And as such, Chick-fil-A is not able to take an objective look at the negative impact they have on communities. Or maybe Chick-fil-A continues to put restaurants on unsuitable sites because it's not their job to care how they affect a community. Chick-fil-A's job is to sell chicken sandwiches. Or maybe Chick-fil-A continues to put restaurants on unsuitable sites because, well, they're Chick-fil-A. We haven't made a mistake yet. We're not blinded by our failure yet. We are in the enviable position of learning from Chick-fil-A's failures and the failures of other locales who have failed to be selective, who have failed to stand up to Chick-fil-A. I understand that the city has tried to steer Chick-fil-A to other sites, but Chick-fil-A is not interested. Why aren't they interested? Why do they want a restaurant on a stretch of State Road 44 where FDOT won't allow them to have an entrance? Why does Chick-fil-A want to put one of their entrances inside a tiny, well-established residential neighborhood? Why does Chick-fil-A want to put a restaurant on a site with 14 historic trees? It's been suggested that the proposed site is appealing to Chick-fil-A because it's already zoned for a drive-through. But come on, it's hard to believe that it's going to be less trouble for Chick-fil-A to put a restaurant on the proposed site than it would be for Chick-fil-A to find a more appropriate site and work through zoning for a drive-through. Remember Lily Tomlin's Ernestine, the telephone operator? She used to say, "We're the phone company, we don't care." I'm feeling like Chick-fil-A saying the same thing. We're Chick-fil-A, we don't care. Let me close with a saying attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. Learn from the mistakes of others. You cannot live long enough to make them all yourself. Please do what you can to save New Smyrna Beach from Chick-fil-A's unwillingness to learn from its own mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mark Beckwith. I live at 1208 South Riverside. Thank you for this opportunity to address this group this evening. I'm speaking in regard to the traffic calming that you're proposing for South Riverside Drive. And I just have a few simple comments for you, the leaders, the decision makers of our community. Your decisions affect our community and have set precedents in the past. All that we are asking for on South Riverside Drive is that you treat us, the residents of South Riverside Drive, as equitably as you treated the residents of Magnolia Street and Palmetto. Magnolia, for example, has 3 traffic calming speed bumps, and under your discretion, you added 3, I believe, additional stop signs. On Palmetto, I think you added 4 stop signs. On Riverside Drive, we're going to get 2. It doesn't seem very equitable to me, and it doesn't seem like you're treating the residents of Riverside Drive as nicely or as equitably as you treated the other residents in our basically the same exact neighborhood. I ask you to think long, think hard, and reach down in your heart and do what you know is right. Our traffic has increased substantially since you put into effect the traffic calming measures on Magnolia and on Palmetto. And all I ask, and all we ask, is that you treat us the same way. And phase 1 doesn't seem to do that. Phase 2 might get us there, but for Magnolia and Palmetto, there were no phases. It happened all at once. So what's the big difference? I don't really understand, and I hope that you guys think about that.
Thank you.
Tim Payne, 608 South Riverside. I just want to echo everything else everybody's been saying here. The traffic there since we moved in 2 years ago has gotten absolutely miserable. Between the roundabout to the hospital street, we need more something in there. Phase 1 with a couple of stop signs and speed limit signs is not going to do anything. People come around that roundabout, and by the time they go north, they're doing 40, 50 miles an hour past our house. We're asking you to fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl Iverson, 1314 South Riverside. I'm just going to, first I want to ask, I'm assuming at this point that what I've heard is you guys are pulling discussion tonight on traffic calming in Riverside. Is that true?
I couldn't understand. So repeat that again?
You are pulling the discussion from the agenda on Riverside Drive traffic?
The discussion is on consent agenda, and no one has pulled anything. And when
Okay, because I'm wondering why we're talking now, but I will go ahead and just say, I'm going to reiterate.
Well, hold on a second. You asked a question, I'll answer it. You're talking now because the item is on consent agenda, and now's when you speak for
All right,
consent
so-
agenda before we actually vote on the item.
All right.
Thank you.
So my issue is, I'll reiterate what they've said as far as Magnolia and it goes. But here's the other thing to look at, guys. You guys have Washington Street that you're going to throw a couple $1 million in to narrow the road for the main artery off Beachside. So in addition to that, you also have all the traffic now coming across. If you got a trailer, if you got a boat, or if you just don't want to get on US 1, you take a left on Riverside because of what you guys, and that's a parking lot right now on the weekend. So what's the city going to do? They're going to spend $2 million to narrow the road and make it pretty. Okay? That's what I heard at the meeting there. I was at the meeting when you did Magnolia Street, and it was said, this is going to impact Riverside Drive. The city heard that and accepted it, that was going to come over. 95 closed down here, as you guys know, with an accident several weeks ago. All the traffic was devoted to US 1. And what happened? Riverside Drive was nonstop. That's going to be that's a harbinger of what's going to happen in the future, because Edgewater, you guys have no control, but they're putting in thousands of homes just like is in New Smyrna. And as US 1 becomes more and more congested, you're going to see even more and more traffic on Riverside Drive. And as I said, I've been here for 20 years. Traffic is I mow my own yard. It's scary to mow my yard because cars don't move over when you're trying to mow your yard, and they come within a foot of you sometimes. It's scary, not to mention crossing the road. I mean, something has to be done, and I just say 2 stop signs, and please don't put up any speed limit lines. Your traffic calming book says you don't want to put police presence on the street, so you're not going to do it. Every once in a while you might, but nobody's going to pay attention to a speed limit sign. All it does is clutter up the view that you already have with more signs. But something has to be done because it is absolutely crazy. I mean, we used to sit in our front porch and watch the neighbors. You can't do it anymore because it's just too loud. Riverside Drive is no longer a drive, it's an expressway. We have rush hour. And rush hour goes out to 10 o'clock at night. So something has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Board. My name is Craig Hilton. I live at 309 Oliver Drive, New Smyrna Beach. I'd like to start out by saying I've been here for 51 years, so I feel like I'm a New Smyrna Beach boy. I love it, where I live. But I am the first house in off of State Road 44. Chick-fil-A will be built right next to my house with the entrance into Chick-fil-A approximately 25 to maybe 40 feet from my property line. I know it's already been brought up about the historic oaks. I have historic oaks in my yard. I have owls in those trees over there. More important than mentioning that now, because it's already been brought up, is I'd like to talk to y'all about how the impervious soil, how are we going to deal with that? Because when Verizon was built, it was not supposed to affect anything. My yard, my backyard now floods every time we have heavy rainfalls, major rainfalls. My back floods out, the very back part of my property, and it's directly over from Verizon. Now we're going to put Chick-fil-A in front of my house or to the side of my house, and I'd like to know how we're going to address that. Also, we not only have Verizon, but now we have Circle K, Firestone, and Wendy's to the west of Oliver Estates, which is uphill from us. All that impervious soil, now all that water has to run off. So everything floods down towards us. And I don't know if you're aware, but Oliver Estates drains inward, not outward. So in the major storms of '04, the water came in. Our infrastructure hasn't been touched for maybe 40 plus years. We've kind of lost out there. Nobody really comes out. I mean, I'd be willing to buy y'all a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts just to ride down our street with a hot cup. But, how are we going to deal with the infrastructure if you do this? Because people live in New Smyrna Edgewater area are going to learn really quick that they can come in the back of Oliver Estates and beat the traffic off 44 to get that entrance, which is going to totally clog up our neighborhood. How are we going to get out? I'd like to know, has there really been research done on how successful Chick-fil-A's have done in a neighborhood? They're typically on a plot of land where you can get in, you go through the drive-thru, you get back out. We don't have that at Oliver Estates. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Pasquale Bergnola. I live at 391 South Timber Lane Drive. And to reiterate, I'm not opposed to Chick-fil-A in New Smyrna Beach, but I am opposed to Chick-fil-A at its current site. This evening, I've got more questions than answers. Per Mr. Gov, he told me that there currently is no traffic impact analysis as of yet. And until that is submitted, reviewed, and made public, our questions concerning traffic impact to our residential streets will remain unanswered. My other question is a TIA based solely on State Road 44 traffic, or occurring to this particular instance, is it based, or could it be, or should be based on historical averages based, or of other Chick-fil-A's on major roads? Another question that Mr. Gov offered to me was that FDOT is requesting a rezoning. My question for that is, what are they asking for? So if they're asking for something, I'd like all of you to consider possibly rezoning all the parcels from east of South Wild Orange to just west of Oliver Estates to be non-drive-through restaurants if restaurants are allowed in this zoning area. My other question is, if there were no amendments and no variances granted, would this application be approved? Another question is, what's the timeline for the completion of this application? And since Parks and Recreation were brought up earlier, maybe the commission would consider purchasing this parcel and dedicating it as a nature and wildlife preserve, and there wouldn't be any more opposition to this. So I thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to seeing you at the neighborhood meeting next Wednesday evening.
Thank you. I didn't catch your last name.
Brignola.
Brignoli. Mr. Brignoli, thank you for your comments. A lot of concerns out there. There's a process. This is the early stages of a process. So please keep your questions coming.
Okay.
We understand them, staff understands them, and there'll be, nothing's been approved, and it's just part of a normal process. The transportation study has to be done. So we're aware, and please keep feeling free to reach out to staff and us by email and phone to follow the process.
Thank you for your consideration. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is David Donovan. I live on 412 Oliver Drive. I am here as well to voice my opposition to the location for Chick-fil-A. As my neighbors have mentioned, obviously the location infringes on the entrance to our community, significantly infringes on it, does not allow for direct access for 44. Essentially, if you were to look at the way that they've designed it, they've designed the entry heading east on 44 into Timber Lane, the entry into Timber Lane, and coming back out on Oliver Drive, essentially creating a loop. They're going to have to exit on Oliver Drive and go past Chick-fil-A on the way out. It's one direction. It's essentially a snake eating its tail. The volume of traffic that the Chick-fil-A's generate are in the hundreds during peak periods. We're talking thousands and thousands of cars per weekend now making that loop through our community. Our community is a very small community, 100+ homes. We have no sidewalks. We have neighbors walking all the time. We have children playing all the time. We have a safety risk that's being imposed by the proposition for this. The location itself is not amenable to the construction of the site. It's not amenable to the volume of traffic that the Chick-fil-A itself brings. There's many records that you can research in terms of the volumes. There's even California cities that are imposing or threatening litigation against Chick-fil-A because of the issues that it's caused with their communities. So it's there, it's real. Our community, again, is very small. It's a well-established community. It's a 60-year-old community. And we're now talking about bringing traffic from Glencoe Road through there, people with Waze and navigation systems, pointing them to the least traffic route out through our community. That's what they do. So essentially, this commission has the responsibility to look at the zoning of that location. I heard tonight the need to establish and retain infrastructure for future needs. This is a prime opportunity. 14 historic trees in excess of 36 inches. Our colleagues representing the historic district have interest in retaining historic landmarks. Our community is a historic landmark. This proposal and this location is purely the wrong location. It's going to cause irreparable damage to our community. It's going to cause irreparable safety issues and quality of life issues to our community, and it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Martin, 618 South Pine Street. And while I certainly agree with the concerns about Riverside and Chick-fil-A, I have new topics. One, I noticed our parks survey had 155 responses. That is consistent with all the surveys we do in this town. And I think we need to reconsider how we do surveys when we have so few people making decisions for the many that live here. Number two, special exception in multi-use that's coming down the pike here. Once again, they have reverted to number of attendees versus the square footage of the built business. You can't have code enforcement standing in front of a door counting the number of people going in the door. The square footage is non-subjective, it's concise, it's easy, and I would like to see consistency across our land development regulations based on square footage. And the last one on the Flagler Peninsula interchange or intersection, I've yet to see the cost-benefit ratio done. The building could be used for city offices. We know we're short of space, or a police substation. And we could put the money that we were looking at spending on that intersection towards our dramatically and consistently underfunded street maintenance program. Remember, we paid a very expensive consultant to go through all the streets in this town years ago. And they said then that we needed about $1.5 million per year to maintain our streets, and we've been funding at the rate of about half of that. Those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you.
Randy Herman, 108 Esther Street. Good morning, good evening, Vice Mayor and Commission. I'd like to address something that's been going on as we're sitting here and standing here, and that's about citizen participation and an issue that you're going to address later in the agenda about the development of new and or sunsetting of old councils and boards. I think the city of New Smyrna has always done a great job about involving citizens. I think one of the most troubling experiences in my 11 years coming to these meetings was over the borrow pit and the definition of citizens not being expert in a quasi-judicial hearing. In many ways, that smacks to me of a non-democratic process. And as you know, we are really in, I think, a very serious point in our history about the fate of our democracy. And we're living in a state where voter suppression is underway, and a variety of other civic interests and issues are at risk. So it seems to me more important than ever that we have our citizens involved. And tonight, I think we see that, and we see the research and the heartfelt comments that people are making. I believe the citizen participation that came around the Chick-fil-A at the last meeting was very impressive. It wasn't just people being upset, it was people that had done research, and they've really come back even again tonight, hoping that helps you with the facts and information that they need, because they are residents here and they've been paying taxes here, and sometimes it feels like the new people get a better say-so than the current residents, and I think that is something we can work on. But lastly, you're going to be talking about the development of possible new boards and councils and the sunsetting of at least the neighborhood council and the leisure council. I'd like to commend Kelly, our city clerk, on the work that she did initially at the request of the mayor, and I think you're going to come up with a proposal as well. And then we had a citizen who also brought up a proposal for 3 new commissions and boards. I do believe this is a time we need some new commissions and boards, and I think we have a wealth of resources in our community. So I urge you that whatever is formed, that it does have a budget to it, because there is a cost to running those. One of the problems with the neighborhood council was we didn't have sufficient staff bandwidth to help support us. So we want to make sure that we have that. And I just wish you well and guidance as you discuss that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
PJ Arvidsson, 1314 South Riverside Drive. And I'm just going to take a quick minute to read from your municipal manual for uniform traffic control devices, the MUTCD, stop signs. It has been shown in studies that stop signs only reduce speeds within 150 to 200 feet of the sign itself. Mid-block speeds between the signs may actually increase. Due to the acceleration and deceleration actions required by a stop sign, the noise and the air pollution in the neighborhood of the signs, which would be Fifth Street as I understand it, usually tends to lead drivers to either ignore or roll through the sign, which can potentially lead to crashes or pedestrian injuries. Stop signs are not installed by the city unless they first meet the criteria specified in this manual. However, the upcoming new edition of the MUTCD has revised the language regarding the use of stop signs to indicate that, and I quote, "Stop signs shall not be used for speed control nor traffic calming. This placement of stop signs is not considered a viable option to help calm traffic in a neighborhood. It can, however, be used to address other issues such as road use conflicts or other safety-related issues." Thank you. So you want to put a stop sign on Fifth Street in violation of your very own device code. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public participation? Please come up. If anyone else would like to speak, kind of queue up here so we can go ahead and do this in a timely fashion. Thank you. Your name and address, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mimi McKee. I live at 2020 North Peninsula Avenue. I'm commenting on 7A on tonight's agenda. I'm a resident within walking distance to the Spyglass Pier and am in favor of the dock reopening. I'm representing my household this evening. That includes my husband, our 6-year-old son, and my 1-year-old daughter. The pier's closing is approaching 5 years. I have been so disappointed my family is missing out on the fun activities we envisioned when we chose to move to this location of NSB. Upon moving to the area, we began creating memories at the pier instantly. In fact, my son took some of his first steps on the pier in 2017. He's 6 now. We enjoyed walking to the pier as a family to spot the marine life. We liked being able to take family and friends there, and I have very vivid memory of these wonderful experiences. I have been advocating for the dock to be reopened since it was closed. In addition to the dock estimate for repair and replacement, the city also has information that shows many residents are in favor of the dock reopening, including a petition that was circulated in 2017, a mailer survey that was done by the city, and a current list I have worked on with neighbors and supplied to Commissioner Colodi that includes residents in the surrounding area on North Peninsula Avenue, Spyglass, Ocean Drive, Dune Circle, and Surf Street. We have been a very patient group. As a community member, I'm doing what I can to assist with this moving forward towards the reopening. My motivation is the vision I have for my family's future in New Smyrna Beach. I am diligently communicating with my neighbors, and we agree we want water access even in the most simple form. We're a reasonable group of people. We are not asking for any additional improvements or design for the pier. My husband has even suggested removing the damaged end piece, reusing the existing pilings for a much lower dock, giving access to kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards. For my family, we would simply like to have the access that was available when we moved here. Please only consider options that give our neighborhood water access. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see anyone else for public participation. Oh, we do. Tell you what, if you want to speak, go ahead and start. Let's create a little line or something that'll move things a little quicker. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Vice Mayor and council members, visitors. My name is Earl Tingle. I live at 2016 Spyglass Lane in New Smyrna. And I'm not new to the area, although I moved here in 2005. I was introduced to the quiet little town of New Smyrna back in 1948. And it's no longer a little town, and seldom is it quiet. Thank you for the opportunity to present the opinions of myself and several other residents of the North Peninsula community regarding the decision on the future of the dock located at the intersection of Ocean Drive and Dune Circle, also referred to as Spyglass Dock. The first concern I have is parking at the dock. There is no legal place to park, and that would create a problem for those driving to the dock. Presumably, however, those who would use the dock would be a few local residents who would be walking to the dock since there's no place to park. In addition, in deciding on which projects the city taxpayer taxes should be spent, a criterion would be to allocate money where the money would benefit the largest number of people. Replacing or repairing the dock would benefit very few people, considering there's no place to park. Are there other fishing docks in New Smyrna Beach better suited to benefit larger numbers of residents? Sure. There's the Riverside Park dock, there's the fishing pier at Smyrna Dunes, and there's a fishing dock at North Bridge, docks at North Causeway Boat Launch, Indian River Lagoon Park. All 5 parks provide legal parking. That's not the case with Spyglass Park. It's logical to understand that large numbers of residents wanting to fish would not use Spyglass Park when there are 5 other parks that are more accessible. Again, spending taxpayer money on the Spyglass dock would benefit very few. I was living on North Peninsula community long before the dock was damaged by the hurricane. At times, I was told by other residents how nice it was to be able to walk to the dock in the evening to view a sunset. Granted, that's nice, but considering the cost of this nicety and other considerations of rebuilding or replacing the dock just does not have merit. In the plans presentation earlier, one slide said, what do we need? The answer to that is one thing. We need money. Money can go to the parks that would be better spent than going to the park at Spyglass. In summary, there are three major considerations. The lack of parking, replacing or repairing the dock would benefit very few, and 3, numerous other fishing docks are available and accessible to larger numbers of city residents. On behalf of myself and several other local residents who asked me to present their opinions, the consensus is option 4, pier, remove the pier completely. Thank you for the opportunity to present our opinion.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jonathan Locke. I live on 201 Ocean Drive, New Smyrna Beach. And this is indeed also about item 7A on the agenda, and with regards to Spyglass Pier. In opposition to my previous neighbor, and in thanking Mimi for her impassioned speech about retaining the pier, I would also just like to point out very briefly that of the 2017 petition and a recent spate of signatories in support of rehabilitating the pier. Of course, of the options available, there's a $70,000 number for removing the pier, so it's $70,000 to do away with a facility that we have within the city, or for an additional $22,000, we can have a curtailed pier but repaired and a usable facility. So we have a $70,000 to remove or $92,000 to repair. So the small difference seems to be a significant benefit to retain a facility in our community. And it's not just the local community, it's a broader community, as Mimi mentioned earlier. So in addition to the North Peninsula, the Ocean Drive, the Spyglass individuals, Dune Circle, Surf Street, but in addition to that, the Menorca community is also concerned. I had a good conversation today with the president of the Palms Condo Association today, and they're concerned because they'd like to use that facility as well. So just in summary of the options you've got on the table, and I know you're considering those, I'd like to consider the $22,000 as well spent to rehabilitate in addition to the amount of money that you'd have to spend to remove the pier in the first instance. Yeah? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone lined up. Last call. Okay, I'm going to close public participation. I'm going to move on to consent agenda. I'm going to go down the line here if anyone wants to either pull an item or simply make a comment on an item. Commissioner Colodi?
The answer is yes. I would like to make a comment on 6C, C as in Charlie, regarding the revised resolution for the improvements proposed for the North Causeway boat ramps, what's known as the AOB site. This commission indulged me, sort of, by allowing a revised plan be prepared for more extensive and expensive changes to that. I've reviewed the plan. I find it to be quite extensive also and expensive. I support filing the revised application, even though I'm not happy with all the items on it, but the improvements can be done in a phased manner. When we're making a grant request for half of the funds, it's very important to be all-inclusive and to move ahead with that. That's my comments on that. The next one is what I've heard quite a bit about, 6G. I want to pull that one.
Okay.
6G is the South Riverside Drive improvements, proposed traffic calming. This area is now included in Zone 1. I am now the commissioner for that area. I've inherited quite an interesting project, a problem that's been going on for years. I've heard numerous people speak about the need for traffic calming. I agree completely with them. That's not the issue.
Mike, was that going to be a comment, or are you pulling that? If
I'm
we're
pulling
going to
it.
pull it, let's.
I'm pulling it.
Okay, we'll get into a discussion on that. Thank you. Anything
Good.
else you want to pull or make a comment on?
No.
All right. Commissioner Sacks?
Just a comment. Mr. Vice Mayor, thank you. I have a comment on 6J. We didn't go on from Commissioner Colodis, did we? It's my turn?
Yeah, it's
correct?
your
Yeah.
turn to either make a comment or pull an item. Not to just a brief comment, or if you want
Brief
to.
comment on 6J. This city has decided that it's going to consider firework event for July 4th of 2022. Although fireworks are fun, our city does sponsor at some expense to put that on. We know we also have fireworks on the beach, and it's a county beach. And so I would like our staff to get together with the county to kind of put a damper on that fireworks that goes on the beach. We have plenty of room for people to enjoy the fireworks that the city puts on. But the private fireworks that go on throughout the city, on the county beach, are untenable. They're to the point of disgusting. We know that it causes PTSD in people and animals. It leaves a tremendous mess the next day. Thankfully, we have people that pick up after them. I just want this to be a reminder to, if you're going to have fireworks, what blows up or goes up simply is illegal in this state. So please refrain from doing that, and let your friends know that come to visit that the beach is not for setting off fireworks, nor is anywhere else in the city. Sparklers are fine. Again, if it goes up or blows up, it's illegal in this city, and I'll do my best to keep them from selling fireworks that do that in this city. So I just wanted to make that comment. I'm glad the mayor supports fireworks. It'll be nice to see that this year. But remember, no fireworks on the beach. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Hartman?
It's already been pulled.
Okay. And I also wanted to pull 6G, which has already been pulled, and I wanted to make a brief comment on 6C. The two words, shoreline restoration and living shoreline, I think have been used interchangeably. I just wanted I wanted to make sure that when we talk about shoreline restoration and living shorelines, at least in my mind, they're two different things. So I believe the agenda item is about shoreline restoration, which is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Colodi, we talked about cleaning up all of the debris out front of the AOB site as a restoration type project. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. So that was the only point that I wanted to make. And then let's go ahead. I think 6G is the hot topic. So if I can get a...
Vice Mayor, if the commission desires, if you want to amend the heading on 6.3 to change the language from living shoreline do shoreline restoration, you can do that prior to the approval.
Okay, let me first, is there any, is the commission willing to do that?
No. And I'll tell you why. We had considered what Commissioner Colodi did not specify exactly was a shoreline, I'll call it a renourishment. My assumption was that you saw deficiencies in the shoreline and wished to shore them up with riprap, other materials. Shoreline restoration, to me, was what you had in mind. Unfortunately, if that was not what you meant, and it was to provide a living shoreline, with the help of the expertise of the Marine Discovery Center, I would like that to be a separate item and included. I hope you support that. I think you did. And I'm not sure whether your discussion about restoration of the shoreline was what I was talking about, which included living plants and what we would find on a natural shoreline. So you guys, maybe we should clear that up now. We're looking for funding. We're looking for help from the MDC.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner Colodi.
The biggest issue I have is we're making what was formerly a sewer plant into a park, a nice facility. And a portion of the shoreline now is basically the rubble that was created by the demolition of the sewer plant. It's ugly. Call it a shoreline restoration, a renourishment, a living shoreline. Living shoreline is kind of specific, and that does involve natural plants. I don't want to plant trees, whatever, that block the view. The view is very important. So I just want it to look nicer, and it'll aid the environment, make the fish habitat a little better. So
let me.
that's it. And we're only talking design at this point. We're not talking actual construction plans.
Yeah, let me do this. I apologize. I'm going to interrupt, and I'm just going to pull this item because we're going to apparently there's a discussion
Good
about
idea.
it. So let me do this. If I can get a motion for the remaining consent agenda items, which would be A, B, E, H, I, J, K, and I. Do I have a motion to approve that portion of consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
It's actually L instead of I.
I, thank you for the clarification.
And I'll second the motion.
Kelly, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Commissioner Hardman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, consent passes unanimously, with the exception of 6G and C. So going with 6, we're on the discussion of item 6C. I wanted a clarification between restoration and living shoreline. To me, those are two very clearly different specific. Living shoreline is a specific act that I think we can point to the Marine Discovery Center did, and where they took a third of the property roughly and put it back into the lagoon and planted oysters and mangroves. It was a very unique, specific thing. And I don't want that to be confused with simply cleaning up all of the concrete and debris that is out front in the AOB site in the water there. So all I was asking for was some clarification in the wording. So
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. And when we get into the design process, which is what we're actually authorizing, no construction at this point, because that's going to be very expensive, and that's down the road. But we want to get our application in, and hopefully the design engineer will show us which is the better way to restore the appearance of that shoreline, make it more viable. Also in Edgewater, they also did a shoreline restoration where they took a concrete bulkhead away and planted natural materials. So when you take your boat down along the river, it looks very nice.
okay, so I think, Commissioner Colodi, that that kind of, I agree with that. I think that makes my point, which is a living shoreline is something specific to something restoration, but maybe we're mincing words. I'm not comfortable with supporting a living shoreline because I know exactly what that is, what the Marine Discovery did, and I don't think that was necessarily our intent there. So that's just my personal feelings. I don't want to go down the road and someone look back a few years from now and say, we agreed to a living shoreline, which is what is at the Marine Discovery Center. So that's just my thoughts.
Living shoreline.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if you go back to the last meeting or the meeting before that, we had discussed the shoreline. Now, I don't believe that Commissioner Colodi and I diverge very much from what we would agree is to a viable, pleasant-looking, and feasible working shoreline. I don't think that the Marine Discovery Center would plant any type of, let's say, black or white or red mangrove that would totally obscure the view. That's not the point. The point is to shore up the shoreline, and according to the resolution, we did discuss and we did ask for help from the Marine Discovery Center to provide segments of that as a living shoreline. We're also approving, I don't know how many docks, how many piers, floating slips, which, as far as I'm concerned, don't look as good as mangrove, but that's not the point. The point is we approved the enhancement of the shoreline, and I agree with Commissioner Colodi, we're only in the planning stage, but in this resolution, it says at the very last two words, living shoreline. That's pretty specific, that you provide the types of ecosystem that can enhance the water. And I think that's a very smart thing to do. I would ask my colleague to the right if he might agree that is that not a good idea? To go along with that thought, adding on to your thought of beefing up the shoreline. So that we can leave this item as it is and not omit living shoreline.
I support it as it's written. Living shoreline can be interpreted any number of ways, or there's any number of methods as to how to achieve the shoreline. We're far from developing those methods at this point.
Okay.
Agreed.
Is there a motion on the issue?
Yes, I make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second, as written.
Okay, Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
No.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
No. I need a definition for what a living shoreline is. I agree with everything we're trying to do, 1,000%. But to agree to something that we don't even define concerns me a little bit, especially with taxpayer money. So the motion dies without a majority vote.
I'm asking that this be put on the agenda for the next meeting, as we're facing a hard deadline in filing this application with the state, and I do not want to put all that funding at risk.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I may. Can we eliminate living and just put shoreline improvements in the resolution? That kind of gives us a broad scope of things so that this can be addressed when we get into the actual planning and design phase of that. That way the resolution can go forward and we're not held back by any time restraints that we have within that.
Yes.
Is that a motion?
I see the planner.
I'm checking the time frame. We have another commission meeting before the May 16th submission.
Well, if we can wrap this up tonight,
So
let's not postpone it to another meeting if we don't have to.
I make a motion to adopt 6C with the following changes. Instead of 270 linear feet of living shoreline, we put 270 linear feet of shoreline improvements.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Sure, yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. This is democracy at its best. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, item G. Commissioner Colodi, would you like to start that off? I don't want to pick on you. I know I'm always looking to my right, so.
I'm always willing.
All right.
We've had pros and cons at this meeting. I was a part of, from a different zone, the Magnolia, which I did not think was handled totally and properly because it neglected the rest of the neighborhood. We now have living proof that what was put in by the residents, that we've just moved the problem elsewhere. Stop signs don't stop traffic speeding. They don't. The manual says that. I'm a licensed engineer out of state. I've designed and supervised the installation of over 50 speed humps. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Stop signs don't do anything. I hesitate to approve this because the people who put forth this proposal put a lot of their effort into it, and they followed our manual to a T, and they got a recommendation. I don't think the recommendation goes far enough, and it's not studied enough of the area. As the commissioner for that zone, I'll work with everybody in it to try to come up with a comprehensive solution, because one can be obtained there. It might be a little drastic for some of the residents, but it'll cut down on speeding. This won't. But to move the issue along, I would support this as it's written for phase 1. And at that time, I'll work with the residents, see if we can come up with an enhancement to it, and just move it forward. I don't like the speed humps that are out there on Magnolia. I don't think they comply with the ordinance anyhow. But that's my comments.
Thank you.
I didn't make many comments during Magnolia, so now's my turn.
Commissioner Zaks.
Well, as far as traffic calming on Riverside, every action that this commission takes just about may have negative consequences. Some people like the things we do, some people don't. When I was faced with the residents of Magnolia pleading with me as their representative to do something about the speeding and deadly accidents that they had, for 5 years, they had just about fought with this administration to get some type of traffic calming on Magnolia. They were not given many choices. And do you know what they asked for? Stop signs. They asked for stop signs. And it turns out I've spoken to the best engineers this county can provide. And they've told me, Jake, you know what works? Stop signs and speed humps. Now, I'm not a proponent of stop signs and speed humps as traffic calming devices. But if they work and engineers say they're a measure by percentages, only small percentages, that you will improve the nature of that road, the regimen of that road, to keep people from driving fast, and you come with an over 100 signature petition to me, I would be negligent to not do something. The unfortunate consequence, and this is for history, hopefully is being recorded somewhere, so that the residents on Riverside understand that no one had any intention of making them wait for any type of measure that would give them relief. Every main street you go on, including Beachside, has terrible traffic problems, dangerous traffic problems, which I've taken upon myself to try to work on. It's very difficult. When you have some residents that don't want you to do anything, some say, please do something. I kind of agree that this phasing in of measures has some merit. I would have rather seen, Mr. Arvidsson is correct. We're spending a whole bunch of money on Washington. We should have been thinking about Riverside a long time ago. The problem with Riverside now is, yes, it's become the cut-through, It is Live Oak and Magnolia that have had a few basic improvements. You haven't heard any people complaining about them because there's not much traffic. People have diverted. We're trying to keep people out of that neighborhood and back onto Dixie Highway. But it seems many of our straight thoroughfares north and south have become cut-throughs. And now Riverside has to suffer. I had told some of the residents on Riverside, even though I was not their direct representative, I was going to try my best to help them. With a willing administration or not, there are things you can do to calm traffic. And I think we should try to do them. But we should do them carefully. And it's unfortunate that they've waited now on Riverside approximately 2 years. But please remember, everybody that lives on Riverside, the folks on Magnolia had people killed and maimed on their road. They had people dragged. I had witnessed a fight, people punching each other through their windows in their cars, speeding down Magnolia. What was I to do? And at the time, the administration was not willing to help. They didn't want to give those people those stop signs. They didn't want to do anything except close the street to Edgewater. And that was really popular. So, again, I told the residents on Riverside, they have a new commissioner. I'm sure he's willing to help them. He's a smart guy, he's an engineer. I'm willing to support reasonable measures to help Riverside and the whole neighborhood. We still have Palmetto. Thankfully, Palmetto's cut off and you don't hear too many problems there. But I know my colleagues have similar problems in their neighborhoods. And I think this is one of the biggest problems we face. It's not just traffic and parking. It's the speed and the dangerous way that people drive. It is just amazing how you can sit on your iPhone or look at your dashboard and drive. It's like driving drunk. But the problem is, all of the growth around here is going to impact us. They either want to go downtown to Canal to eat, or to Flagler to eat, or they want to go to the beach. So they're going to cut through our neighborhoods. And it's true, it's only going to get worse. And I'm very passionate about it, as you can see. I am willing to do whatever it takes. Yes, the residents have waited quite some time. It's unfortunate bureaucracy and politics get in the way sometimes of doing what is best for the good governance. But again, I just want to make it clear one more time to the residents of Riverside and the whole community, South Mainland, that I'm going to try and help them. I also have Beachside now to think about because that's my new zone, Beachside. And that comes with its own set of problems. So I'll reserve the balance of my time. And thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. Commissioner Hartman?
So I have a couple questions, and most of them are directed at staff. So, Kyle, what's the speed limit going to be on Riverside?
As you may recall, Commissioner Hartman, there was a MetroCount study done, speed study done, and it didn't qualify revising the speed limit, but it will remain at 25 miles per hour.
Okay. So if it's not posted, then it's assumed that the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. Is that correct?
Correct. It is posted, but not as frequently as it should be.
Right. So to the gentleman's point about not putting any speed limit signs up at all, then it's the assumption that if there are no speed limit signs, then the assumed speed limit is 30 miles an hour.
That's correct.
So posting it would be better. That's something that I may bring back. The other is with the Phase 2 project, part of the project, would that have to come back before us for a vote, or is that just going to be based on the traffic count and your analysis?
That will come back for approval, not necessarily vote. Yeah, for a vote for approval, correct?
Okay. But in the meantime, we're going to collect data to see whether or not the stop signs are working, et cetera, right?
Yeah, we'll reevaluate probably about 6 months after to see, has the traffic pattern increased, has the safety increased, has the quality of life increased in this area. So we'll look at that, and if there has to be some tweaks to it, we'll do that as well.
Okay. That's all the questions. But my other comment is, my position about the stop sign at 5th is not about a speed control or slowing traffic. That's a dangerous intersection. If you're coming out of Commodore Island, with the improvements that the UC has done with their lift station, they planted trees and shrubs in there. You can't see northbound on Riverside Drive. So for me, it's more of a safety issue than it is a speed issue. I would support going forward what we're currently doing. However, I would amend it so that the money does not come out of the reserve of funds. I talked to the city manager during my briefing. He checked. There was still money in the street fund in this budget year, so we wouldn't have to pull it out of reserves. And so I would rather, if we approve this, that the money not come from reserves at this time, is that we go ahead and fund it through the current street program.
Thank you. I think a number of the Riverside people left. Okay, we got some in the back, great. So I'm hearing stop signs, then I'm hearing no stop signs. I'm hearing we need to put speed bumps instead of stop signs. I know I attended a public meeting at the Brandon Center not too long ago, and it seemed to me at least I thought we were moving in a direction. My biggest concern tonight is I'm hearing different things from different residents who live on the street. It's not clear to me what you want. So I'm not sure how to go forward because I'm hearing different things. Stop signs are on the agenda. We had Ms. Harvardson say we're not doing what we should be doing. She doesn't appear to want stop signs. There's some other, I think Commissioner Colodi said something holistic. I'm in favor with going forward with the 2 stop signs tonight, simply to do something. Now, with that said, I've made it very clear. When we put the traffic calming measures on Magnolia, we promised not to shift the problem. And that seems to have gotten lost in the discussion. I am perfectly willing to remove what we have put in Magnolia and going back to the way we were. That's what we said we were going to do. We seem to get further down this rabbit hole. But I also hear from some of the Riverside people that the growth is also a concern. So they may want these traffic calming measures anyway, which leads me back to, I'm not exactly sure where everybody on Riverside is at. I'm not getting a consistent message. So with that, I can support tonight the 2 stop signs. But going forward, I can also go back and just do what we said we were originally going to do, which was go back to the way it all was and pull up the traffic calming on Magnolia and deal with Magnolia in a new and different way. I don't like to say one thing and do another. I don't want to ignore the fact that we said we were going to do, we specifically promised we would not move the problem, and it's exactly what we did. So I'm open to different options, but I would like some kind of clear message on where the residents of Riverside are. And you can feel free to reach out to me personally on that, email, cell phone, going forward in the future. So if there's a motion, I would certainly entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Vice Mayor, before a motion is made, I think we also need to consult the residents on Magnolia. And see
Okay,
what
hold
their
on a second.
wishes are.
What I'd like a motion at this time, and someone can second for discussion.
I make a motion to approve the traffic calming program, phase 1 only, at this time. I'll have things to say later on also. That's my motion, phase 1 only, approve.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Okay, thank you.
For discussion, would you?
Well, hold on a second. I think Commissioner Sachs, did you have any further, did you have a comment? You seconded?
No,
Okay.
phase 2 may take some time coming. Let the residents decide what they would like for phase 2. So, but phase 1 is a place to start.
Okay. Commissioner Harmon?
Would you amend it to that the money not come from reserves, it comes out from the operating budget?
Does that conflict with the resolution we already approved to transfer monies?
No, this motion, I mean, there may be further action that needs to happen with an additional budget amendment, but it's not going to change the one that we've already approved.
I agree to that.
Commissioner Sacks, you seconded the motion.
Yes.
Do you agree? Okay.
It's a nominal amount of money. I
Yes.
agree. Yes.
Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Cludy,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. We got through consent agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations. Okay. Moving on now to administrative items, new business. Item 7A, consider the approval of an option for the Spyglass Pier. Okay, Mr. Alexander, I believe are you here? Are you taking this for staff? Are you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. So what I did was I put together an estimate for multiple different options for Spyglass Pier using a evaluation that was performed by Dredging and Marine Consultants and provided to us on January 20th, 2021. All I did was try to outline the options and compare them via construction cost. There still will be additional costs that would be associated with anything that we do other than maybe removing the pier completely. So there would be design and permitting and possibly mitigation fees impacted with any of the mangroves that may be impacted. So what I did was I did also adjust some of the values for inflation. So the 4 options that I have shown here are, the first one is a full replacement, which will cost just under $300,000. The second option would be to replace the overlook section and the last 24 feet of the main pier, and that would also include replacement of deck that are on the existing pier, and that came up with about $146,000. The third option would be to remove the last 24 foot of the pier and the overlook section, and then also replace the deck boards along the existing pier, which would be about $92,000. And the last would be to demo the entire pier itself.
Okay, so the question.
Sure.
The cheapest option, other than demoing it, is going to be $92,000 plus the engineering, design, and permitting phase.
Correct.
Thank you. Commission comments?
Yes, question. Did you get an estimate on the cost of demolition alone?
Yes, sir. There was an estimate provided for demo alone in the original evaluation, and that was the last fee of $69,875.
$69,000?
$69,875.
I saw a figure of 16,000. Can you speak to that? I'm going to try and look for it myself.
That's what is in the current budget.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, I have some comments. I'll let my colleagues in on it, and then I have a few things to say about this item.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Did you have anything to say?
I'll
Okay.
pass it on, and then please bring it back to me, because I have a few comments and
Okay.
points that are very important before we decide.
Any comments?
I'd like to hear his comments.
So would I.
I mean,
You might not.
well, you got the floor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, would anybody like to speak?
You.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sacks.
All right. This pier was not built by the city. This pier was built by a private individual for a deed-restricted community. That community down there around Spyglass is actually an HOA. In their documents, it says the common area to be utilized for river access is intended for the use of all residents of Spyglass subdivision and their guests only. That's just one piece of evidence. The next piece of evidence I found was this pier was not built with any permits. They didn't go to the DEP, they didn't go to the city, they just built it. And then, when it came to repair, it was repaired privately. The city didn't provide any money for this pier. This pier is a private pier. There are signs all around that proclaim it's a park, something Namibia Park. They adopted the park for cleaning up. But everywhere you see no parking signs. So how can this be a park? It's an easement. There's a tax roll on this piece of property. Somebody's paying taxes on this property. It's not a city property. So for us to get involved in this, and now I find out it's, I was willing to, the city made a mistake here. And if anybody wants to agree with me, go ahead, but I'll fess up. City made a mistake. It wasn't this commission. It happened a long time ago. They allowed somebody to build something private, and I don't expect the taxpayer to pay for it. And now it's unfortunate that it's $69,000 to demolish. The taxpayer's going to be on the...
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs.
Would you like any more? I got a little more here.
Well, I don't want to stop you.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Sachs, are you good? You done?
Yeah,
I didn't want to stop you.
I'm done for now.
Okay.
Let somebody else speak.
All right. You want Commissioner Colodi?
Okay, as the former commissioner for this area, which I was redistricted out of against my will, I dealt with the residents in that area on a number of issues. This pier, parking, the beach parking overflowed all the way to Peninsula. And they're pretty adamant about having the pier restored. Now, I disagree with a lot of the facts that my fellow commissioner came up with. They are contrary to what I was led to believe. I have the original petition from 2017 that was signed by 27 residents in that area that wanted us to take action to improve the pier. There are one or two residents that have opposed it for their own reasons. I fully respect that. However, I think the consensus is they would like to have this pier back open up. We have so many limited areas for access to the water. Our own master plan that we approved says there should be a little park out there near Smyrna Dunes Park. This would make a great place for it. But I think it's important just to get the pier back functioning before it deteriorates more. And those costs are only going to go up to demolish it. We have to make action one way or the other. This commission has been very lenient with me in continuing to bring this item up to try to get a formal resolution that was opposed to what they originally approved to demolish it, which was, I believe, for $20,000. It can be saved. It can be given a 15-year life. I believe it's on public property, and we can check it again for the 14th time to make sure that's true. But I support those residents who really want to have the access to the water up there. It's a cost. We also have 4 or 5 other dead-end road right-of-ways that go down to the Indian River, some of which have piers, some of which have parking, yet we don't restrict the access to the water at those locations. I think we should have a consistent policy all the way up that side of the Indian River from Flagler all the way up to Smyrna Dunes Park. This is an access point. It was used for a number of years. Yes, it was built improperly, but we acquiesced to that somehow. So I would like to see the pier rebuilt. As to the cost difference, the $22,000 between the rebuild and the demolishing, I'm not going to ask this commission to add that additional monies to it. Perhaps if some of those residents that signed this petition and the last petition find it in their hearts maybe to donate to the city for that, Maybe that would help out a little bit, but that's my position. I would like to see it rebuilt, and I would like this commission to take action because since 2017, we've been beating around this issue without solving it, from before I was a commissioner to now. That's my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Hartman, any comments?
I have a couple. To legal, can you comment on Commissioner Sachs's comments? I mean,
So the pier is at the end of a right the plat. There's historical information that indicates we accepted maintenance. It may have been privately built, but we accepted maintenance. In 1993, there's commission meeting minutes that say they approved construction of the pier with stipulations including for public access, pedestrian access only, not for boat launching or jet skis, daylight use only. They think it was built in 1998. It was placed on our insurance list. So by all indications, we have some sort of ownership / maintenance obligation here. I understand, Mr. Sachs, the restriction and covenants that say it was the intent of the Spyglass subdivision to keep it for their private residents and their guests only. But the other data suggests that, they corrected that. They made sure the minutes reflected it was open to the public. The restrictive covenants are not binding on the city. So it wouldn't change common law that is located at the end of this public right-of-way. So at this point, the pier is there, and we need to decide, no matter in the end, we're going to be implicated in one way or another, the city.
because I think that's what the holdup has been, is we tried to claim it on our insurance from hurricane damage.
Yep.
And that's kind of been all tied up, and the reason why it's been ongoing for this length of time. So to Commissioner Colodi, you recommended replacing it. Are you option 1, 2, or 3? Which one are you recommending?
I would have to review them to see exactly what's included each one. Generically speaking, I think that the piers located in the mangrove area are fine. Some decks need to be replaced, some banisters need to be restored. The 24 feet out at the far end that extends past the seawall should be removed completely and not rebuilt. Basically, it should be a single width pier out to the edge of the river. That way people can see the river, can look farther on. Does that clarify?
No. Which option is that? 3. Option 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I got to put my glasses on.
So we're at 92,000 on option 3, and we have $16,000 budgeted for it. Where's the rest of that money going to come from?
Same place the money to demolish the pier would. We got to appropriate it.
Well, my position is that wait till next year's budget and it be included in the budget cycle. I mean, we're already committed to this year's budget. We're having issues now. So until we actually fund this thing, I would wait until the end of the budget year.
I agree completely.
So it certainly could be a project going forward, and maybe even look for some possible grants and/or your private cash donations, which you said
Correct.
last meeting you were going to look to try to get some of those. So
I asked.
okay, so yeah, I agree with the gentleman. If you're going to spend $70,000 to tear it down, why not spend the other 20 and at least have something there that the residents can enjoy and be an asset to the city? So if we truly own the land and have taken some ownership of the pier itself and continued with the maintenance, then I think going forward, I mean, I could support that. But certainly, I don't want to take it out of reserves, and unless we can find money in this year's budget, it just needs to be a budget item for next year.
You could also add signage that indicates public park.
Yes.
To clear up this
Yeah, like we did.
public-private thing.
Right, like we've done all the other parks, yeah. That's where I'm at.
If I may. speaking of other parks, you know, during the hurricanes, the city goes to their insurer and asks for help to repair things. And our insurer, when it came to piers, said, that's not on your list. That pier is not on your list. So that also tells me that that's not a city pier. It's a private pier. And you want all the taxpayers to pay for a private pier. You know, it's a real shame, because it's a nice pier, a nice community, nice people. I went to examine that pier. It was about 2 years ago. It was already cordoned off. There were no parking signs everywhere. Not that there's much place to park. And immediately when I stepped out of my vehicle, a gentleman ran out of his house and said, "What are you doing there? You're not allowed to go there." And I was taken aback. I said, "Sir, I'm your commissioner. I'm surveying this pier that we're considering for repair." And you know what that told me? That told me it was a private pier. Okay? That's what it said to me. Okay? And if you look at the documents, the deed restrictions say it's for their use only. They can pick and choose who they want to go there, but I guarantee you, the wrong person goes there and they get pissed and chase them away. That's not fair to the taxpayer. Do you guys want to pay for that? Go right ahead.
Okay, I guess I'll chime in. I would love for these residents to have their pier. However, it was built by residents. It was paid for residents. The city essentially donated the land. I have no problem if the residents are willing to chip in again to pay for this to be rebuilt. We'll put it on it's already on our insurance in terms of a liability. There's dock insurance is way too expensive. Don't want to confuse the two. So I would love for people to have it. I know someone who loves that pier, loves to walk out on it, has for many years, but I can't support public funds for what is essentially a private dock. I want you to have it. I think I'm perfectly willing to continue the status quo, which was the residents can go ahead and pay for it. And I'm even willing to extend that offer to other residents who live at dead-end streets next to the water. But the residents are going to have to pay for that. The city doesn't have the money. I have Rocco Park that has a pier that's been destroyed. Got a whole community, Islesboro, who's waiting for that to get done. There's no way I can take publicly funded money and justify that pier while Rocco Park is still damaged and unopened to the public and a public park. So that's where I'm at this point. I'd like a motion on the issue.
Mr. Vice President, I would make a motion, but I don't know exactly. Mayor.
No, I kind of like Vice President. I'm moving up.
You can be in charge. I don't know if you'd want that job. I don't know what motion I would make at this particular time. I think we've all expressed our opinion, and we've kind of passed the ball out to the residents. We'll see if they've interested in that. I hope they do. Rocco Park, I thought we approved the reconstruction of that.
Yeah, we're supposed to get FEMA money. Then we weren't getting FEMA money. Now we might be getting FEMA money. It's government. What can you do? You never know.
Okay. It just, and I fully supported that, and I thought that was a great idea. We rebuilt the piers out at Riverside Park, Buena Vista Park, every place. Access to the water. And we're talking about ALB Park, that thing. Access to the water is our community, period. Here we have an opportunity to take advantage of something that we have, and we should. That's all. So I'm not prepared to make a motion. The residents who spoke for it, I know I was presented with a list of 37 additional people who might support it, and I don't think it's our responsibility to ask them for contributions. I think they should take it upon themselves, see what they come up with, then we can consider it. So I'm not prepared to take any action tonight.
Okay, do we need to table do we need to table it to another date, or do we just, I don't want it to let it go, die without a motion. I think there needs to be some kind of formality to where we're leaving it, no?
Well, this was just to consider different options. You've been presented them. If you just want to maintain the status quo, you take no action and it doesn't come up again unless
Okay,
somebody
well, I think
brings-
it's very clear that we're looking at this point, we're open to the idea, we're looking for maybe some input from the residents who would benefit from that. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, and let me just add, I don't want to take away somebody's pier. If the city didn't build it, the taxpayers should not pay for it. I kind of like the idea of end of streets to have a pier. But again, not everybody can go on it. That's another story. And if the citizens would like to fund something like that and pay all the appropriate permits and the DEP and the building permit and do everything properly, it might be a good idea to provide more water access. But as it stands now, all the evidence I have before me, no permits were applied for, and now the city wants to get involved with it. I think we should maybe have further discussions on this before we decide to jump in. And
No one has decided to jump in.
Good.
We've put it
Correct.
back on the
Not at the end
residents.
of the dock. Yeah.
Right. We have not taken any position on this so far.
And for my pleasure, could I just have the real bottom line figure on what we're talking about to rebuild a dock? Because the numbers are all over the place.
Well, I tell you what, it's in the agenda. I think to get that answer, maybe you can meet with staff privately, because I think there's some numbers given that don't include design and a few permitting and a few other things. So it's maybe difficult to get an exact number, especially at this time.
If I can offer maybe one suggestion, it sounds like people, the commissioners on the dais, would like to see the pier without taxpayers' money, just for quick consideration, and if you'd like to discuss it, if the residents were to raise the required funds for, say, the Phase 3 component of that, would the city agree to administratively handle those funds or the administrative process to make the necessary repairs on the pier for the Phase 3 option?
Well, I think that the commission has indicated that direction. We'd like to see the residents come forward with with the money for this, and then we can work out those minor details. Obviously, the city would administer that portion of it being on our property.
Got it.
Okay. We good?
No, I just want to thank the commission for tolerating me pressing you for the last 4 years on behalf of my former zone.
That was off for him mentioning the former zone, trust me. That's all that was. Okay, moving on to ordinances, second reading and public hearings. Item 8, ordinance number 0122, conducting a second reading and public hearing on an ordinance which, if adopted, would amend the parking waiver exemption for the arts overlay. City attorney will read the ordinance by second time by title only.
Ordinance number 122, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the land development regulations, amending Article 5 zoning district, Section 50402, specific regulations by district to revise the parking requirements in the Arts Overlay District, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, City Attorney. All right. Bob Mathan, City Planner, is going to spearhead this and get it started for us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So the arts overlay currently is a geographic overlay. This type of overlay not only exists on paper, but it also is applied to properties within a certain area. This district was created to stimulate the Canal Street Commercial District on properties that were primarily zoned to mixed use, but some were actually zoned to B3 and also R5. Now that the Canal Street Commercial District is thriving, and some would say that's at the brink of a parking shortage, staff, with the help of our parking consultant, which was VHB, has proposed a revision to the current Arts Overlay District regulation as it pertains to parking. Staff believes that the original parking waiver was created to stimulate small businesses that require a small amount of parking on Canal Street. But currently it seems that larger businesses that would create large volumes of parking are now moving to Canal Street, And if too many of these type of businesses are allowed to have a parking waiver, the city may create a parking issue that is currently like we see on Flagler Avenue. Now, the parking consultant suggested only businesses that would create a parking demand of 10 parking spots or less should be able to get the parking waiver, since the city has on-street parking and some public parking lots around Canal Street. Staff agreed with the parking consultant, but decided to allow businesses that would create a parking demand of 20 parking spots or less to be eligible to the parking waiver. So at its regular scheduled meeting back on December the 6th, the Planning and Zoning Board voted 6-0 to recommend the commission to approve the request for modifying the business eligibility of a parking waiver in the Arts Overlay District. Since that time, the city attorney reviewed and requested amendments that recommended language and purpose and intent stating whether a proposed business is eligible for incentives, provided as determined by the administrative official, will be stricken. That language seems ambiguous and suggests that the list of eligible business can be amended by staff, where actually the list of eligible business is legislatively adopted and cannot be revised without a text amendment. It should also be noted that most of the Arts Overlay District area is also in the mainland Special Parking District area, and that Special Parking District does allow for a minimum of 50% of the required parking to be provided upon certain defined criteria. That existing ability of the mainland Special Parking District to reduce the number of parking requirements by 50% would remain in place regardless of any proposed revision to the Arts Overlay District parking waiver. So staff recommends that the commission review and approve the proposed amendment. We're also open to modify the minimum parking requirement.
Thank you, Bob. I'm going to open this up for public participation at this time. So this is the Arts Overlay Waiver Amendment. Please, you have 3 minutes to speak, and please state your name and address for the record.
Richard England. I live in Edgewater, but as usual, I'm here wearing my Hub on Canal hat. I'm here to speak against the Arts Overlay Parking Ordinance. The first point I'd like to make is that, in my view, this vaguely drafted and extremely poorly understood by the public and those it impacts ordinance purports to solve a problem that I don't believe actually exists. I drive to Canal Street somewhere between 12 and 18 times a week, and that's probably more than most people. And in the 5 years that I've been the president of the Hub, not once have I ever had to park farther away from the Hub than the old city offices, just over to, I think, that direction a little bit. So a bit over a block. And I just don't feel like there is a parking problem on Canal Street. Secondly, I don't believe this ordinance does anything to increase the parking supply. Instead, in my opinion, it will over time decrease parking demand, which is not what we're looking to do, at least not what I'm looking to do. It's a blunt instrument. The structure here means that eligible businesses, that list of eligible businesses, are frozen in their current use state because any change will have an impact on who a buyer could be for that business because of a possible change in what that business is. This ordinance will not create, this parking problem doesn't exist now in this organization, will create a new one, but it's a lack of parking demand, not a lack of parking supply. You should instead focus on a way to actually increase parking. You have a parking garage proposal in front of you. I believe it's in the fairly early stages of discussion, and that's where your focus should be, in my opinion. Finally, this seems terribly impactful, and it is, as I said up front, extraordinarily poorly understood by the people that it has something to do with. I've spent the better part of the last 2 days looking at this and talking with people, and I'm not sure exactly what's in here. And a whole slew of people that are impacted by this found out about it for the first time last week and got further into it just in the last 24 hours. So I think it would be terrible to move forward without those people that are impacted having a much better understanding of what's being done here. Thank you.
Thank you.
for my time.
Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Commissioner Vice Mayor. Serge Torres from the Mondelez Bakery on Beachside.
Pull that mic
Mondelez
up.
Bakery on
Yes.
Beachside, 557, but I live on Live Oak now. My wife and I bought a beautiful building, which we plan on doing a little cafe, bakery downtown. Like the gentleman before said, I read this. I'm not too clear on whether or not I can go forward with my project. I'm not really clear on whether or not if I go forward, I may be able to sell it 10, 15 years from now. I'd just like to bring everybody back. I know many of you were there in 93, 94, but there was a city mayor by the name of Jim Vandergrift and a city manager by the name of Frank Roberts. And at the time, they approached me on Beachside and asked me really nicely, but pushed me a little bit to try to open something downtown on Canal Street because there was nothing going on. And at the time, I'm like, there's no way in the world I'm going to open downtown. I'm very busy on Beachside, and downtown is not thriving. So this district overlay that you all created, or whoever created 10, 15 years ago, accomplished exactly what it was intended to accomplish, which is to revive downtown, make it thriving, and make it where people now want to live on Magnolia and Riverside and all the street because they want to go downtown, they don't want to go to Beachside. And all the street, and it look like you want to go back to the past and stop what is actually working. So that's my main issue. It's not clear. Please allow us to discuss with you more in detail what it is that you want to do, explain to us what it is that you want to do so that we don't feel like we are investing money and time into creating businesses in the town that we love. I've been there for 30 years. And I want to make sure that what I'm doing is going to work for me and my family and for all the people that like my project. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Sorry, Liz. Stephanie Ford with the Executive Director at the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce, 115 Canal Street. Like Richard said earlier, we were just made aware that this was going to be on the agenda only a few days ago, which does not give the chamber time to chat with our businesses, our members, the business community about this issue. This issue directly affects the business community and our members, which the chamber represents. We have a great relationship with the city, the commissioners, the mayor, and we have continued to have conversations about issues that come up. So we ask that we have the opportunity to meet with you, commissioners, mayor, and the city to discuss this issue before it goes any further so that we can be better informed to take a position on it. I'm not taking a position tonight because I haven't had time to prepare. I haven't had time to talk to the community, the business community, or our members. And I think it's very, very, very important that we do that. I haven't heard that anybody's been surveyed. No one's reached out to the chamber directly to get feedback or information. So our ask is that you simply take the time to meet with us and do the homework before you move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Jones, 314 Canal. I'm here representing the Canal Street Historic District Association tonight. And I do agree with what they have been saying. Many of our members are either unaware or do not really understand the changes that could be coming with this. So I do ask that you give us more time and let us make everyone aware, talk to us, spend some time with us. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. A blast from the past.
Jay Pendergast, 5900 South Atlantic. You know, this is really your fault. I've been following this issue since December, and this has been deferred 3 times, and nobody from the city has reached out to the community, to the stakeholders, to explain this and ask for either approval or disapproval. So it's been kicked down the road. This has been going on for months, and it keeps popping up on agendas, and the issue has never been properly explained or vetted with the real stakeholders in this. And I think if you would do that as a city, you'd probably be more successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public participation?
Vice Mayor, member of the commission, my name is Dick Rosedale, 411 Koyasisi. I've owned property on Canal Street since 1981, the building next to the hub, the two-story, which is being just turned into the White House, if you may notice. I own 14 buildings in the historic district with 39 tenants. I'm equally confused. Richard England, I concur with him that I don't see a problem. My office is at 112 Orange Avenue, right behind the General Public House. I own most of the buildings in the 500 block and own the parking lot. It is construed to be a public parking lot. It is not. And if I could waive the taxes, we can put a public parking sign on it. It's very confusing. I have a question more than the comments. I have a engineering analysis done in 1989, 33 years ago, in which in the 500 block, I'm grandfathered for 43 spaces. I have here a letter from the city of New Smyrna Beach, dated 1992, January 14th, under the signature of Mark Rakoski. It's regarding the movie theater that I bought and turned into the pavilion. There were 410 seats in the movie theater. Because there was some confusion then, there was zero lot line. There's no parking spaces for the old movie theater, the pavilion. I had to buy the two little buildings next door, the gallery and the acupuncture, just to create some parking and get the remodeling done. This letter from Mark Rakoski says any use of the building will be allowed by the city provided said use requires no more than 103 parking spaces. I assume this would be construed, at least it was at the time, as these parking spaces being grandfathered. If this moves forward, how are we considering those of us that have owned property for years and years to address the issue of 146 grandfathered spaces that I have? That's basically.
Thank you. Way too technical for answering that question right now, but we get the point. Any further public comment on this item?
Good evening. My name is Wayne Lundberg, 2103 Hill Street. My family bought the property at 204 Magnolia this past year, and we just by chance found out about this proposal and have had to get our site plan application into the city really quickly in order to kind of come under the wire for getting a proposal for a restaurant. We own Third Wave Cafe over on the beach side, and we'd like to do something similar to help make this community even better than it already is. And even though we are under the wire, I guess you might say, I just don't see this as being helpful to the downtown area. I totally agree with the idea that we need to focus on more parking. There are vacant lots 2-3 blocks off of Canal Street that would be ideal for additional parking. Certainly the Utilities Commission area. I think the commission really needs to look at some of these options, and let's try to work something out that's going to keep a vital Canal Street area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? I think everybody just wants me to wait to say, is there any further? And then you like to come up. No, you're good.
Jennifer Suarez, 114 Live Oak Street. We own a commercial mixed-use property, which is also our resident. I'm also a longtime resident of the area and a graduate of the high school here. So I've watched the community change and grow. I also had my own business here within the community. And I've worked for the last few years with the SBA to locally promote and help businesses through the pandemic and the shutdowns, as we were able to utilize them as a resource to help guide us through this very difficult time where all stuff come through in different ways.
What I found is that they actually have increased their guidelines and stipulations as we continue to work with them on our future project. That being, they asked me to do some research, and part of that research was to identify other businesses that were like mine, independently owned artists, galleries, and who was still in business after the shutdowns. There's a direct correlation between the neighboring artist studios and galleries and the hospitality industry. The ones that are still in business and were doing well during the shutdowns were accessible because people were going out for takeout and then walking through. So there's a direct synergy between these businesses, and this is the beautiful part about the Arts District overlay and how those businesses are connected and feeding into that. Upon reading the proposal for the ordinance, they brought up a few questions talking about seats and parking requirements. How does that actually break down? What businesses does it affect? Hospitality industry is heavily measured by seats, whether it's for a liquor license or their spacing or ADA requirements for bathrooms. So each area has a heavier impact. The hub has a lot of artists that they're representing. So again, what are seats? And if you guys can help clarify that as we move forward, and who it's impacting and which businesses it's actually going to benefit and hurt the most. We're looking at this as a whole, as a community in the downtown area, which we've been living for a number of years now, and we'd appreciate the help. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close public participation, and with people slowly leaving, I have spotted somebody in the audience. I'd like to recognize former Mayor Sally Mackay. Please stand up. And she was instrumental in the hub. So all the new people in town need to know couldn't have happened without Sally being one of the key people who made that happen. Thank you for attending tonight. Okay, Bob.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I think I'm going to go down the line here and go ahead and start with Commissioner Colodi, see what kind of commission comments that we have. Commissioner Colodi.
I agree with virtually everything I've heard, but for different reasons. I found the ordinance to be totally ineffective and would have no effect on anybody's development, either for or against. So I wasn't going to support it one way or the other. And it just points out everything I've heard. You can't figure out what this thing really means. Whether you've had 1 day or 2 weeks, you just can't do it. I'm not even comfortable going to a second hearing on it. I'd just like to send it back to the staff and meet. A familiar refrain. I'm commissioner for Zone 1. This is now Zone 1. So I'm ready. Contact me, sit down, get together. I already spoke with the Canal Association. And we'll try to come up with something. The idea for this, as it started out, we had a study. It was supposed to provide a mechanism to have anybody that wanted to do a big business contribute to providing parking spaces. That was my idea. I feel our parking regulations are entirely too lax and too confusing. So I'm not even comfortable going ahead with it.
Commissioner Sachs.
Bob, I really appreciate your hard work. I appreciate the hard work of staff and our boards, especially when I vote against them. I really do. In this case, I'm taking it on the most simple terms to describe to you my angst about this overlay. Are we going to hurt the small restaurant owners now that are there now? And are we going to hurt any residents who neighbor them? And then I think, realistically, we don't have a whole cache of parking spots. They're all street parking for the most part. So as Mr. Rosedale mentioned, and he had a different commission at the time who granted him a certain amount of spots. We don't have anything like that, do we? So we have this allotment of street parking. How can we decide who gets what? Is this really, is it possible that this is going to help the new guy that comes in with 200 seats and he gets the upper hand and the small guy's out? It really boils down to whoever wants to go out to dinner and get there fast, they're going to get the parking spot. Our streets are really narrow. I don't know how our fire trucks can get down them. And that's one of the problems we face. And we want, I don't mind more restaurants, the better. I really want to see Surge open up something nice. If Mr. England is not sure about this deal, and if Surge is not, and Jay, you know, we've been kicking the can down the road since 2010. And at that time, the planning board, the historic New Smyrna Beach Preservation Commission, the Chamber of Commerce, maybe the gentlelady was not there at that time, the Board of Realtors and the Canal Street Merchants all got together with V-Card and gleaned public input. And we still haven't gotten there. You know why? We haven't dropped the ball, I don't think. We just don't have the spots. I came to the previous commission and manager, it was some time back already, and said, a gentleman came to me, he offered up his land for parking spots. It came to about $14,000 a spot when you separate it all out. And it was turned down. Okay, there was an opportunity to get parking for the Canal Street Merchants, who I hear can't, you know, a special event, good luck finding parking for it, let alone go to dinner. So if you could go back to the table, Bob, and see if you can work something out and really maybe get fresh input from the merchants and residents that are affected by this, I'd be more comfortable. Because right now, as it stands, it seems to hurt the small guy who's already established. And it's kind of setting, this is just my feeling, but it's setting us up for redevelopment. And I see that in other ways in our city. And I don't want us to be in 5 years a city that we don't recognize. There's a lot of charm there. I know there's constraints by size. I know it's a problem. We can find a way to work it out. But I don't think this is the way.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. Commissioner Hartman, any comments?
I just have one question. Did the consultant provide any public meetings with?
Well, the consultant was part of a workshop with the commission that we had at the Brandon Center, and he actually came during a commission meeting and gave a proposal. He also came to the Planning and Zoning Board. So we've had at least 3 public meetings with the consultant, with this body and the Planning and Zoning Board. Plus, we've had this on the agenda for, I guess, 4 months, and it's been continued every month. So it's been publicly out there for a long time. No one's reached out to me. I know that we have a lot of business owners behind me, and I'm the one that draw the short straw to stand here in front of everybody. But I know that if you go to elementary school and you ask the kids, would you rather have cookies for lunch or would you rather have celery and carrots, they're going to say, I want the cookies. So I know that when I do meet with the business owners, they're going to not want any restriction, because why would you want to put a restriction on yourself? Just to give you a reason why we're even here is that we have 2 restaurants that are coming to the Canal Street area that would not be subject to this because they already have the exemption in place by having site plans. And one of them is a 150-seat restaurant that would have required 60 parking spots that we're going to have to absorb as the city. And then we have a restaurant coming in on Magnolia Street that we've grandfathered in because they have a site plan that's being reviewed, and they're going to be at least 150 or more seats. And so each parking is going to have, we're going to have issues with parking for their customers. So in the meantime, we were directed by this commission to revise our park regulation. That's a 26-page document, so we thought maybe we'd piece it through a little bit, chunks at a time, so we can hopefully get some of it approved. This is the first step, but staff has no problem going back and trying to run some more numbers for you, or if you just want to not see it on an agenda, we can definitely pull it off and move on down the road. Right now, currently, the arts overlay is in place. The exempted businesses are listed there, and there's no cap. So if you want to have a 200-seat restaurant, if you got another space for it, you're not required to have any parking, just like any of the other ones, cafes, coffee shops, bakeries. We're just looking at putting a cap. You know, where are we at that we say, okay, as long as you meet this demand or less, we'll exempt you. But if you're going to be over that, you should be providing parking for your business somehow, either leasing it from private individuals or to lease from the city if we have a lease program maybe in the future. So.
Okay, you done?
Yes.
Okay. I've got some comments on this. I don't consider myself a restaurant. People work a lot harder to get restaurants and do restaurant than what I do. But I do know food and I do know seating, and I do know peak hours. So I can tell you that having enough seats to accommodate a business model during your peak hours is incredibly important to any food establishment, whether it's a cafe or not. Mm-hmm. And I do understand that there's some concern out there about a big 150 or 200 seat restaurant. I'm not sure, I understand the concern, but I'm not sure that the numbers are adding up. 150 sounds like a lot of seats. It's really not necessarily a lot of seats if you go to your typical restaurant or cafe and actually start counting. I think that this issue, it's not about not wanting it. I think it's what I'm hearing from the people is they don't understand it. I don't think this has been vetted properly through the stakeholders, which are the people on Canal Street. These small business, or they're all small business. I think we need to take some time to make sure that they understand this. They are the stakeholder, the business owner, the property owner. The staff report says that various groups and committees have been met with, but that was in 2010 and 2012. One of the interesting things that we've talked about on this dais is what we thought was great 20 years ago and we talked about is totally different. Parks was probably one of those key ones. I think that the Chamber of Commerce, the Canal Street Historic District, the business owners and the property owners are probably the four most important stakeholders in this. And I would like to somehow have an engagement with them because this may make sense. Mm-hmm. But the irony is, the crazy thing is we don't understand exactly how this affects the current businesses individually and how this would affect potential businesses in the future. So this is not an indictment on you and staff. This is more of, okay, how do we understand this? How do we make sure we're not creating an unintended consequence? Is the waiver currently with the business or with the property owner? If this passed tonight, does it become an unconforming use? What triggers an unconforming use to become a conforming use? So I brought some of these issues up the last time this came about, and I think that it's important for these issues to be discussed so we understand those, but not necessarily with us, with the business owners and the stakeholders. So this may come back sometime in the future, and it may be embraced because everybody understands it. I know the consultant recommended a reduction to 10, staff recommended 20. And I appreciate that upgrade because when I do my own kind of analysis on that, 10 was crazy, which leads me to believe that I have no idea what that consultant was trying to accomplish, but I appreciate what you guys did by not just going along with it and understanding that we are trying to accomplish, create an unintended consequence. I don't need a study. I think you and the rest of the staff is perfectly capable of working through this and bringing forward something that makes sense, because this may, but something we can all understand going forward. And I don't want the fear of the unknown to create an unintended consequence. So with that said, I think what I'm hearing from the rest of the commission and myself is that at this time, we do not want to go forward with adopting this. I don't think we should take any action on this And the direction, I would like to wait until we have a full commission, the mayor's here, before we give any kind of direction to staff on what to do. I think he has a lot of good input and information in the community too, and I would, wouldn't do us well to not include his comment. So I think that this may be part of a discussion at another, not creating a workshop, but adding a workshop to it, adding it to a workshop discussion. And I guess, and what I want to hit home is, I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm saying we need to understand it before we go forward and go back and maybe include, Lisa Martin mentioned square footage to determine seating, a lot of different possibilities here. So I want to thank staff. I know you guys have been bounced around. That's on us. We keep kicking this thing down the road, and you guys keep doing work on it. I know Jeff sat here the last meeting, and it was canceled. So I do want to apologize for any inconveniences that this has caused for you. But I think we've given some, at least direction on making sure that the stakeholders understand what problems this may create or how it affects their current businesses. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question, though, if good. Do you have an issue with expanding the eligible businesses that we currently have?
I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Because my intention was to bring that up and at least make them, have the staff, have the commission make a motion on the eligible businesses.
Right, because I think the ones we included would fit. You know, we added museums, you know, so we added a few little things that we think are part of the Arts District that wasn't listed before. We probably didn't think about it.
Right, we have them actually now, the museums, the brewery and stuff like that. Staff, commission, does anybody have any problem with accepting just the portion of the additional uses? I personally think that would be a good idea.
I have a problem with that.
I do too, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
Essentially, our cafes, breweries, and art, that's debatable. But it's, you know, it still boils down to not having enough parking spots for folks. And so to add fuel to the fire, that's one thing. Maybe I don't understand, but I think adding more is not the best thing to do. I do have a question, though, if I can throw it in there. It's important.
Okay, but let's stay on a specific issue, and then you can bring, if it's, is it different? I mean, is it talking about this specific?
Only slightly. It's talking about this district.
Okay, go ahead.
Was the Tabby House omitted? Tabby House project?
The Tabby House is a PUD, so its parking requirements are based inside of its PUD and is not part of this as an arts overlay district. It's not actually even located in the arts overlay.
And did you find many residential homes in the overlay?
There are some residential homes in the overlay. They fall off of Magnolia Street south of 3rd Avenue. Those were included in the original study. The homeowners at that time wanted to be included in case they wanted to open a tea room or some small type of cafe at their house, because their homes were older homes and they were next to the Women's Club, which also we own and we lease out. So it's the few houses south of the Women's Club.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Commissioner Colodi, you had concerns about the adding the additional uses?
Yes.
Okay.
I would just like to deal with the concept in whole, in one whole thing.
Commissioner Hart, well, I think that settles the issue. Go ahead, Commissioner Hartman.
What I'd like to see is go back and hold a meeting with the stakeholders and maybe get a better understanding of what their issues are and how this actually would apply. They seem to be a bit confused on that. So if that could, Assistant City Manager, be done in some way that that you can provide us a stakeholder meeting with staff in order to kind of go over this and see what are the issues before coming
We'd
back.
be happy to do that, and obviously to keep the second reading alive, our recommendation is to postpone this to a date certain, say 60 days, to give staff time to have those stakeholder meetings and meet individually with the commissioners to try to ferret out some of your concerns regarding the ordinance.
My recommendation is,
Go ahead. City Attorney.
This first reading was January 11th. It was advertised, the legal ad ran for January 25th, continued to March, continued to April. Now we're going to be looking at a few different months at this point, although we'd be checking the box of, okay, the legal ads were met. We're kind of beyond the scope of come back on first reading with something.
So, City Attorney, I agree with that in the sense that I don't want to create a date certain. I don't want to be under the gun. I don't want staff to be forced to get something done up to a certain point and for the continuation of what we've had. I think we know where we want to be, and I think that I would simply, and for lack of a better word, I would say table the issue until the commission can give better direction with the mayor, better direction to the city staff on this. So what's the proper, under those circumstances, what's the proper approach?
My recommendation for the proper approach would be to vote this down based on the comments I've heard, and then date certain a discussion item, see where we're at after the different meetings, but maybe direct staff, okay, we want to discuss this on, have your meetings, come back to us on that, let's talk about where we are.
The date certain concerns me, however, I will.
Just for a discussion, just for a discussion.
Yeah, there's no date certain.
All right, let's do this. Let's get a motion on this. Is there a motion? Let's get a motion on the ordinance itself and simply determine that. And you can also add a date certain. Is there?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 0122.
Second.
Is there a date certain on that motion?
No, make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
As is presented.
Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Hartman.
No.
Vice Mayor McGurk.
No.
Commissioner Sacks.
No.
Commissioner Cloney.
No.
Any thoughts? Commission pleasure on a date to bring it back. Assistant City Manager, do you have you voiced an opinion on that?
I think the approach is, rather than bringing it back as an ordinance, we get the community input through community meetings with the stakeholders. Then we bring it back in some sort of workshop setting to discuss with the commission the findings of the staff meetings. And then we have the discussion to craft it with your input, and then bring it back for a formal ordinance.
So I agree 100%, but I was hearing, I thought a date certain to bring that discussion back. Did I?
If that's the desire of the
No.
commission, to set a date for a workshop with the commission to do that, or a date certain for the first reading of the new ordinance?
Well, I don't personally need that. What's the commission's pleasure on creating a date certain for a discussion item or workshop?
None.
Okay.
No.
I think we've heard, we denied the ordinance, and we are not creating any date certain on when
But for
staff should bring it
clarification,
back.
we will have the public meetings, and once the staff feels ready that we have a product that we're ready to discuss with the commission, we will then ask the commission to hold a workshop to discuss those items.
Great, and I would hope that we reach out to some of the stakeholders before it comes to us, so they can understand
It'll be done.
what the proposal would mean for their businesses. Thank you, thank you, staff. Okay, moving on to item 8B. This is ordinance number 7-22, conducting a first reading public hearing of an ordinance which, if adopted upon the second reading public hearing, would request to submit a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment to be forwarded to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for review. This proposed amendment would add a goal number 9, commercial space industry opportunity overlay in the future land use element. This agenda item requires a public hearing on both first and second reading. City Attorney, will you read it for the first time by title only?
Ordinance number 722, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use element to add Goal 9, establishing the commercial space industry opportunity overlay, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
CRA Director, there you are. Chris Edwards, please step up and you will be staff on the item.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time tonight. Very briefly, based on the March 22nd discussion by the Commission on this particular item, staff did go back and listen to the comments that were received. There were comments regarding the PUD element, the types of uses, whether they would be heavy industrial, those visible type industrial developments, the affordable housing element, as well as environmental. Staff did go in and make those changes. Within your document, you have the we've eliminated the references of anything dealing with the PUD. We revised the map to take out the heavy industrial and focus just on the area around the airport and the light industrial elements, of the words, those not so obvious businesses that are kind of operating discreetly and cleanly. Also with housing, we changed it from affordable housing to just generally housing within proximity, and that the staff would basically provide a database, if you will, in working with the Board of Realtors and other stakeholders for those workers. Typically, those workers are going to be in a class where they will be able to afford market rate for the kinds of companies that we would be looking at. And the environmental regulations as well would be adhering to our current land development regulations, so there would be no changes there. But those are the highlights of the changes that were made, taking into fact the Commission's comments. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Chris. Questions, comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this item? I think we heard from Mr. Williams earlier in strong support of it. Chambers in strong support of it. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the Commission for comments and a motion. Commissioner Clody.
When this was first brought up, I had a number of serious concerns with it. Every single one of those concerns has been addressed. Proudly support this. I think it's a good idea. I think sometimes when you take a regional approach, you include things that aren't necessarily appropriate for your own town. And I think we have now been provided with something that'll help us out very much. I'm glad to see it, and I wish success in you finding people to fill those spaces.
All right. Commissioner Sachs, any comments?
Yes, Vice Mayor. Chris, I appreciate the plan you put together. And I was fully ready to support this. I've supported light industry in our city for years. We just can't seem to get it. It kind of skips over us out of Daytona and heads right for Edgewater. And I heard somebody on this dais say, that's okay, we'll benefit anyway. But that's not the point. The point is the parcel between Myrtle and the railroad tracks. I understand a little bit of history about this parcel. I know the constituents that live on Cavito and Joel and 7th. And they've run through the gamut of problems living there. It's a low-lying area. They've had all kinds of issues. And I know that parcel between State Road 44 and 10th Street will someday be developed. Depending on how it is zoned, will that determine or have anything to do with putting that overlay in that zone? Apparently you can do it, but does that restrict any type of industry? Here's my problem. My problem is you have two residential areas, one to the west of the tracks, one to the east of the tracks. You have the railroad depot with its own noise and problems. And then you have a neighborhood that knows if they lose those woods, if they lose a significant amount of those woods to the wrong kind of development, it's going to be really noisy there. And almost unlivable, I dare to say. I hope not. And I support the space industry somewhat, certain aspects, light industry. Hope they don't want to build something that goes up or blows up in our town.
No.
But the point is, you know I support light industry, but this area is just so problematic. There's a few other zones that are also, and I don't want us to get into the problem of having industry next to residential, because we've seen how it's caused a problem already. So if you can tweak it, I mean, the airport, I was talking with Tony Oddie a long time ago, your predecessor, and Tony said, you know, we could open up the airport if we can get the infrastructure out there. I thought to myself, wait, we have the infrastructure out there off of Airport Circle. So why didn't we get the space industry business? It was perfect location for it. I don't know why. There was no will to get it there. There, I definitely support it. The area around the railroad tracks, I can't. And so therefore, I'm really unsure as to whether I want to support this as proposed.
No, was that a question?
Yeah, it's a question and a
Okay.
comment. That's a
So-
concern.
So that particular property, to answer your question, is no, it isn't. It is I-1, I believe, on that one. So it can be, we do know for a fact, just for informational purposes, Commissioner, it is under contract. So there is interest, there are some private interests on that property right now. That's about 100 acres. It's something that is going through that process right now. However, nothing has been submitted final or idea-based, but there are some concerns that you brought up, you know, regarding what development goes there, the traffic impacts to the neighborhood to the west that you mentioned. It's all something that we definitely would take very serious concern and consideration of. And as far as the active recruitment, Team Volusia is generating active leads, are at conferences all the time. And that is something that we're hoping that we as staff, me as staff, our region as a whole, we're putting together marketing materials and things of that nature that will promote and concentrate on that industry. We do believe, and we've got some really good leads, that people are looking at this area a lot more intently. And yes, we would not want to target heavy industrial at all. We don't want smokestacks. We don't want any of that. We want something that's very obscure. There are businesses here in New Smyrna that do businesses in minimum 14 different countries. No one even knows they exist, but they're doing that. And so that's the kind of companies that we would look to target, something that you would ride by, you wouldn't know is doing assembly, a light assembly, or something of that nature that is beneficial to the supply chain of aviation or aerospace aerospace type businesses. So there is active interest in that site. And it's something that we are continuously monitoring and making sure that we proceed with caution on what actually is brought back for your consideration.
And Chris, just quickly, the Smith Street area is also concerning. It's of course, the hospital and the old UC property is there.
Yes.
But there's residential there as well.
Yes.
So again, I'm still very concerned about mixing the two or the proximity of the two. It's hard to, find that happy medium. I was hopeful that we could get some light industry out west in the southwest quadrant of the activity center, but that's up to the will of the property
Yes.
owner,
Yes.
maybe. I think commissions should have a say as to where things should go. It doesn't seem to go that way a lot. That's my comments.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Commissioner Sacks. Commissioner Hartman, no comments. Is there a motion on the item?
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hartman. Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
No.
Commissioner Clody?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 7-22 passes. Moving on to item 8C, conduct a public hearing to consider request for city commission approval for historic tree removal.
I wish I could have.
Welcome. Late.
Hello.
You're up late tonight.
Yes, I am. I wish I could have caught everyone before this meeting began because the applicant and property owner had intended on having their arborist on hand for this meeting to answer any specific questions. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it, and they are hoping to continue this to the next meeting.
Is there a motion to continue to the next meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Kelly, call the roll.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Clody?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
No.
Motion passes. Jake, you had a wonderful evening tonight watching democracy at its finest.
And just for the record, that was continued to April 26th, 2022, in case anyone's here.
Thank you, City Attorney. Okay, moving on to
Oh.
item,
In 8D, sorry, the one we moved.
yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to item 8D, item 9C, ordinance number 1222 will be conducted as a public hearing. It has been moved up from the first reading as item 9C to the second reading public hearing as item 8D, which is what we're hearing right now. City Attorney?
Ordinance number 1222, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the land development regulations, amending Article 2 definitions, Section 201 general definitions, to add a definition for a place of assembly use, amending Article 5 zoning districts, Section 50402 specific regulations by district, MU mixed use central business district, to permit a place of assembly as a special exception use, providing for codification, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, City Attorney. This item required a public hearing on first and second reading. Staff, Bob, welcome.
Well, thank you, sir. So Cheryl Lorenz at 330 Canal Street, New Smyrna Beach, has requested approval of an amendment to the city's land development regulation, adding place of assembly as a special exception use in the mixed-use zoning district. Ms. Lorenz currently owns vacant property located at 201, 211, and 215 South Orange Street, all of which is zoned to mixed use. Staff has met with Ms. Lorenz and her design team about a proposed event-type venue that she would like to develop within that property. During those meetings, staff was informed that she would like to construct a new building and a parking lot to be used for different events, including possible weddings. Staff looked into the request, not just for the property at 201, 211, and 215 South Orange Street, but for all of mixed-use zoning districts in the city. It would seem that many vacant parcels that are zoned mixed use may be too small to provide the required amount of parking, but if parcels were combined, then possibly the parking could be accomplished. This type of use may create a redevelopment opportunity for some of the property owners. So staff reviewed the required parking procedures, site plan requirement, alcohol sales, and several other possible requirements. Staff also viewed this type of use would be reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Board, and then of course a final review and approval by the City Commission. So after reviewing the possibility of an event location or facility, staff came up with the following type of venue uses: art shows or exhibits, concert and a theater, play or musicals, dance studios, including instruction and competitions, wedding or other public or private events. Staff also looked in the requirement and limits of the venue and came up with some following requirements. One parking spot for each 4 attendees would be provided. Recorded or live music shall comply to Section 3872 of the City Code. Appropriate site plan to be submitted and approved by the technical review staff per Article 11 of the City Land Development Regulation. Alcohol should be supplied and served by a state of Florida licensed caterer or by a state of Florida special event alcohol permit. And then any proposed temporary parking lot must be approved by a separate application to the City Commission after reviewed by the city engineer. So at its regular scheduled meeting back on March 7th, 2022, the Planning and Zoning Board voted 6-0 to recommend to the City Commission to approve the request to include place of assembly as a special exception use in the mixed-use zoning district. The board requested a definition of a place of assembly be inserted, so staff recommended the City Commission approve the proposed addition to the city's land development regulation, creating a special exception use of place of assembly and a definition as shown as Exhibits A through D.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anybody like to comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing.
So
Discussion.
the only
by-
person who had a comment left. Right? Lisa had a comment about this before, and she just left. So.
Right, and this is a private application. This was an application by staff, so.
Okay. So if there's no further discussion, is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 1222 on first reading? Oh, you have a, go ahead.
Is this located in the Arts District?
It is not located in the Arts Overlay, but it is partially located in the Historic District.
So they would be allowed a 50% waiver for the parking requirements?
No, it's not in, I don't think it's in the Arts Overlay.
How about the mainland parking district?
It could possibly be in the mainland, which they could do a 50% discount. I'd have to verify the map. I included it in your package, but I didn't bring it up to the podium. Sorry.
That's okay. No problem. I'm just wondering, this is a pretty small use. How many parking spaces were they talking about?
Well, we would require them to have at least one for every 4. So basically the land, they almost own a whole block of property. So the building size is going to, and the amount of attendees or the occupancy is going to be dependent on the parking. So the more parking they have, the larger the building they can have. So the original site plan to us didn't show there was going to be enough parking, so they would have to amend that when they actually make application to us.
So less building, more parking.
Yes. So originally they had like 27 parking spots, which would give them just a little over 100 attendees. So the building definitely was large enough to support that amount of people, so they'd have to either just bring the building down in size so they can actually have some more parking.
Okay, thank you.
So to Lisa's point, why are we doing this by attendees and not by square footage?
Currently, right now, that's how it's done in other special exception districts that allow for place of assembly. We just copied what we already have on the books for the I-1, which was also a private application at the time, to make it consistent.
This similar to what we did for the barn then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Any comment?
Yes. That was my concern. Since it's a text amendment, it's going to occur in other places around the city. What I see is redevelopment. It's my assumption that the woman is looking to combine properties?
Correct. So she bought the old Church of the Nazarene, and there was also 2 houses that was with that as well. Those have been demoed. She got approval from HPC on one of the houses. One of them was a contributing structure on the very south corner. Part of that agreement is that they build a building in that portion of the property. They've got to go back to them, but their plan is to be the parking lot to the south and the actual structure be on the north end of the property where the actual church itself was.
Thanks, Bob.
But they haven't made application to a special exception use or a site plan yet. So they want to see if they can get this approved before they spend the money and move forward in some type of plan.
All right.
Thanks.
Is there a motion on the issue?
Motion to approve ordinance 12-22.
Get a second? Anybody?
A question.
Can you make the motion and then for
First
the,
reading? Well,
Yes,
only-
it's a public hearing, so we do need a vote on this one.
Second.
thank you. Did you have any discussion on it?
The only discussion I have is I'd like to, if you would check, see if it's in the mainland parking district and the arts overlay district, which
we'll make
seems
sure.
to extend everywhere.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's verified before the second reading.
Thank you.
It also, under the requirements, it says reductions or waivers of parking requirements are prohibited for properties located in a special parking district or overlay. So even if they are, unless you all waive it, they would have to provide the parking.
Thank you.
Okay, Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
No.
Commissioner Clody?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2212 is adopted. Second reading, quasi-judicial public hearing is conducted on April 26, 2022. Moving on to ordinances first reading. City Attorney will read ordinance 1022, the first time title only. The second reading and public hearing will be conducted on April 26, 2022.
Ordinance number 1022, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Code of Ordinances, amending Article 3, Section 286, automatic removal of appointed board members or commission members for failure to attend meeting to clarify the removal process, providing for codification, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Did you want me to just roll through these?
Yeah,
If you're
well,
okay
if
with
I-
that?
If you can you do all of item 9
Yep.
ordinances? Okay, if I don't need to call them out?
Nope.
Let it rip. Thank
All
you.
right, ordinance number 1122, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the land development regulations, amending Article 8 supplementary regulations, Section 80106, home-based businesses based on updates to Florida Statute 559955, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be April 26, 2022. Ordinance number 1422, an ordinance annexing into the City of New Smyrna Beach .29 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of Pioneer Trail between North Glencoe Row and Bridget Street, addressed as 2476 Pioneer Trail, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 3, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be April 26, 2022. Ordinance number 1522, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of .29 plus or minus acres of land located on the south side of Pioneer Trail between North Glencoe Road and Bridget Street, addressed as 2476 Pioneer Trail, from Volusia County urban low intensity to city low density residential, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public, providing for and providing an effective date. Reading April 26, 2022. Ordinance number 1622. Ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning .29 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of Pioneer Trail between North Glencoe Row and Bridget Street, addressed as 2476 Pioneer Trail, from Volusia County B4A, General Commercial Airport Overlay to City R2A, Single Family Residential Airport Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be April 26, 2022. Ordinance number 1722, an ordinance annexing into the City of New Smyrna Beach .46 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of Enterprise Avenue between Cherry Street and Spruce Street, addressed as 1506 Enterprise Avenue, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 1, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be April 26, 2022. Ordinance number 1822, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of .46 plus or minus acres of land located on the south side of Enterprise Avenue between Cherry Street and Spruce Street, addressed as 1506 Enterprise Avenue, from Volusia County urban medium intensity to city medium density residential, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Ordinance number 1922, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning .46 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of Enterprise Avenue between Cherry Street and Spruce Street, addressed as 1506 Enterprise Avenue, from Volusia County R4A, Urban Single Family Residential Airport Overlay to City R2A, Single Family Residential Airport Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing, April 26, 2022.
Thank you, City Attorney. Moving on to item 10, boards and commissions. So item 10 is Kelly's project that she has been working on for a lot of time. I don't feel that we should do this on a short commission. I think the mayor's participation and information that he would bring, and opinion he would bring, would be valuable to this. So I would ask that we continue this to the next meeting.
She's going to present ideas and ask for direction, so
Yes, the mayor would miss that. I'd like to do that with a full commission.
probably watching at home, so.
That is true.
So,
But he doesn't have what I don't want to do is rehash things. So it's really the commission's pleasure. That's just my opinion.
I have a very brief comments on this.
Okay. Would
Kelly's doing a great job of trying to corral all these commissions, and we should make a uniform policy on it. And one of the things I've heard from more than one of the groups we're looking at, they need help from staff. And I would like to have the city manager come up with some recommendations as to who can be assigned and what level of support could be given to it. Because I think that's part of the problem we've had all along, is they show up and they say, well, what are we supposed to be doing? How can we keep track of minutes and things like that? So I think we're going to have to, if we decide to consolidate, remove, add to, or do whatever, we have to be able to provide a level of commitment. That's my only comment.
Okay, so I'm hearing, we can have okay. Commissioner Sachs, any comments? Do you want, well, let's back this up. I don't think we should vote or give direction on the boards tonight without the mayor. That's just my opinion. I'm happy with comments.
Comments is all I want. I
Okay.
don't, no motion.
So we agree not to take a position on the specific boards without the mayor being.
Correct.
Okay.
That's not my recommendation.
Sure. Go ahead. I've got two people. How do you feel about that?
I'm open to waiting for the mayor. If anybody wants to make comments tonight, that's fine. We're not voting on anything tonight.
So what I hear is we'll have comments tonight, wait to determine what boards we keep when the mayor returns at the next meeting. Commissioner Sachs, please, any comments?
Well, it seems, in speaking to some of the board members on the different boards, they feel and have felt it's not just this commission. They've always felt that they're not listened to. They don't have direction. Those are just a few of the problems we have with boards. Although I talk to many residents who are brilliant people who have so much to offer these boards, and we don't let them bring that input, that feedback to us. And I encourage the use of boards. In fact, I was going to have a discussion with you all in regards to what I was asking Carrie about, having a tree peer review. That would not be a board, that would be just one person. Or it could be a board. I'd also like to see us have an urban tree program, which might be aided by people who would be on a board. So I'm not, I could see if there are boards that people don't have interest in and we don't have any use for, then we should sunset them. But then there's others, better take a vote on, because they may be very wanted by the commission and the people that we serve. So I think it would take all of us to discuss. That's all I have to add.
Mr. Hartman?
I'm waiting to hear what Kelly has to say. She's been working on this and taking some of Pam's ideas, and so I'd be curious to know, what her recommendations might be going forward, and we certainly can bring it up at a later date. We don't have to make any decisions tonight, but.
Okay. Kelly, please.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Just to clear up a little bit of the concerns that Commissioner Clody, Commissioner Sachs had spoke of. That is in the latter stages of the phases. This is a very complex issue. I had to break it down. The part I was going to go over tonight was just the very initial, sometimes got to take a step back to take a step forward. So in order to take a step forward to make any action, create any action with these boards that I'm suggesting change for, we've got to take action in the future, whether to sunset them or create new boards. That's the first initial phase. The membership and criteria, things like that, assigning staff to these boards will come at a later date. But the very first step that I had planned to discuss tonight, and I can certainly wait till the next meeting until the mayor is here, is to sunset a few boards who have termed out, they've served their purpose, but not just sunset them and get rid of them in a sense, but to create new boards with new purpose, new meaning, membership criteria, dates, everything. So I have all of that planned out. Don't want to give that to you all at one time. That's an overload of information, so I was trying to phase it out so it can be organized and easy to understand.
I mean, I'm comfortable with your information tonight. But
What was that?
I didn't want to stymie you from giving us any information tonight.
Oh, no, I understand. If you want me to wait until the mayor's here to share it with you, I can do that.
Well, no, I mean, he's probably listening. I think what I didn't want to do was make any decision tonight on the boards, but get the information. I think we agreed that would be a good idea. So,
Okay. Let's see. All right, so this is my proposal, just the very first phase. Defined advisory board provides non-binding advice to the city commission. Don't have the authority to vote on legal issues are temporary meeting bodies, which is the main focus of why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting. And they're also created to be involved with specific goals or objectives or to aid in accomplishing a specific goal. Meeting bodies suggested for reboot/change are the Economic Development Advisory Board, Golf Advisory Board, Leisure Activities Advisory Board, and Neighborhood Council. The current Economic Development Advisory Board that was created in 2010, it was actually created in conjunction with a 100-day economic development plan as part of the 2009 vision statement from City Commission. That purpose was filled pretty long ago, before my tenure here, probably in 2016, 2015 with Tony Oddie. Their proposal is to create an economic development task force, and that would be to review and advise staff and commission on specific defined economic development initiatives or challenges. And then the city commission would determine which projects would be a good fit for that task force, and unique members could be assigned for each project, if you so please. That's the first one. That's the Economic Development Advisory Board. Current Leisure Activities Advisory Board was established in 2012. We heard earlier tonight about the Parks Master Plan. That was their reason for creating that board. They wanted the assistance of a group of knowledgeable citizens in the establishment of a 5-year creation of the Parks Master Plan that's been completed. The proposed new advisory committee would be a special event committee, and that would be members would be tasked with ensuring the relevancy, entertainment, and/or cultural value of community special events requiring city approval. That would be the second one. Third one, current Neighborhood Council, established in 2013 with the intent initiated from the Planning and Zoning Department to strengthen neighborhood participation. New group would be Proposed Community Programs Advisory Committee. They would be tasked with ensuring the relevancy, entertainment, and cultural value of the community programs and provide recommendations to City Commission. So in summary, all 3 of those boards have completed the original goals and objectives that were assigned to them specifically. The meeting bodies were established to accomplish those, and they've been completed. All 3 were intended to be temporary meeting bodies, and I recommend sunsetting the current meeting bodies and establishing new meeting bodies that would provide a new focus and provide defined goals and directions, and that would address what Commissioner Colodi and Commissioner Sachs were talking about staff participation. New goals, new focus, it would be a refresh of them, and there's so many things that are changing in those resolutions that founded these groups that a new board would be the way to go, not just to repurpose the boards that are already in existence. So, and my plan was to have, to communicate to all members if this went through of these boards that I'm recommending sunsetting, and ask them if they wanted to reapply or apply for those new boards when they came out. So one exception, I've heard requests to sunset the Golf Advisory Board. To me, this is a board that was overlooked for a long time. I went in and went to some of the meetings with the former Assistant City Attorney, Chris Ryan. We have them back on track. I think that the members have very good ideas that are beneficial, especially since it's such a substantial source of revenue, the golf course for the city. I think that I'm not comfortable suggesting that they sunset quite yet. I believe that the attendance for their group has been a problem. They can't agree on a date and time to accommodate all of the members. So you have a couple that can't make the meetings because they work out of town for most of the week. So I think that that could be addressed in the future as well. That's not one that I'm recommending. There's also, with the suggestion of Pam Eisen, an additional new committee, City Facilities Advisory Committee. It's based on past City Commission comment and direction that this new committee is also being proposed, and it would be consisting of experts in the fields of construction, designs, architecture, and landscape, and would be tasked with the CIP manager to provide design suggestions, feedback ideas, assist and monitor staff on large-scale public facilities projects such as parks, building, and streetscapes. And so the direction, what I was trying to do to get a consensus tonight would be to create resolutions to sunset the current EDAB, LAAB Board and Neighborhood Council, and then create resolutions after that to establish new meeting bodies that I just went over. And that would be for the Economic Development Task Force, Special Events Advisory Committee, Community Programs Advisory Committee, and the City Facilities Advisory Committee. Oops. That's what I was trying to accomplish. One small step first, especially with the sunsetting of those current boards, because their main goals and objectives have already been accomplished. They've been checked off the list.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Any comments?
Yes. I think they're all good ideas, and after the mayor has a chance to review it, perhaps we can discuss it at our next meeting and authorize Kelly to implement it.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good plan. Any further comments by the commission?
I think a lot of these things are things that we've said in previous meetings where they kind of need to be rebranded, refocused, given new direction, and given some support. So I think in doing that, we're not totally eliminating them, just maybe giving them a more newer purpose that's, more germane to what's going on today, as opposed to maybe something that was 10 years ago. So I think this is a good first step going, and certainly would support it going forward at the next meeting for discussion.
Yeah. So a couple of comments. I can tell you that my experience on the council has been, I've somewhere 7 people. No one has ever stayed. I've had different ages, different different areas. I had retired people working. So my opinion is going to be if we have boards where it's difficult to get people to attend, if we have boards where it's difficult to get people to serve, I'm going to look very hard and serious at sunsetting those boards. I'm a little, not concerned is not the right word. We offer sunsetting a board and then establishing another one. Maybe we create these boards with a less requirement, a less number of people. The one thing that always bothers me about boards is there's always 2 complaints from them. They come in, there's nothing for them to do. Or they come in and they make a recommendation and we change it. So I just want to make sure that when we redo these boards, the expectation of what their role is really needs to be addressed. I mean, I served on a number of boards, both city, county, before I was elected. And I can tell you that every new person needs to be introduced. There needs to be a introductionary period where you come in, some of the concepts are explained. It's not show up for your first meeting, walk in, sit down. I think maybe that helps what the expectation is. The Golf Advisory Board, as I understand, we have 2 younger members who work. Now, there's maybe some debate in that, but what the problem I understand is that the meetings are scheduled at a time when they're working. How do we expect to have non-retirees or only retirees for scheduling the meetings when they work? When normally, so 5 o'clock, after 5 o'clock, I'm going to dive into that issue a little more because I think we intentionally wanted some younger people on the boards to get some thoughts and ideas. But if we're scheduling the meeting during the work day, during the work periods before 5 o'clock, I think we're working against ourselves. So anyway, those are my thoughts right now. And any other further thoughts by the commission?
I think you're on the right track. Kelly was on the right track. If there's no interest, there's no function. The complaint is we don't listen. Some of those things are true. I don't want to burden our city clerk more than I have to. But in the same breath, I would like to see one of those boards morph. We have our Turnbull Creek board. Did you know that Winter Park has an urban tree program? So is it possible to, there may be the will there of very intelligent people who have knowledge of ecosystems and science and trees and all that good stuff, all those living things that make us a city, a livable city. I had a conversation with Carrie about such things, and I'm going to bring back at the next meeting for your viewing is the urban tree program that Winter Park has. Hopefully it won't burden the board, but maybe there'd be people interested from that Turnbull board, because I know I remember that some of them sitting in the audience shaking their heads, yes, we'd be interested in after sunsetting Turnbull, they would consider being on an environmental board so that they can oversee things. So that's my thoughts on boards right now.
Okay, I think, Kelly, I hope this helped.
It does, thank you.
And we'll bring it back at another meeting or the next meeting for possible action on the boards to sunset or add.
That's fine with me, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to item 10B, Builders Trade Board. We have a lack of people to begin with. We have one that wants to stay on, one that wants to come off. Kelly, I'm going to let you kind of iron this thing out for us.
Sure. Simply put, this is a board with 7 regular members and 2 alternate members. Currently, they have 5 regular members with 2 alternate members on this board, so there's always been vacancies. I didn't want to wait any longer. The terms of Member Beach and Member Blanchette actually expired in January, but they've been serving until we had new applications. Member Beach has declined reappointment consideration. He's opted not to and was graciously declined. Member Blanchette does want to be considered for reappointment. However, he has already served his 3rd term. He's asking for commission to approve a waiver so that he would be considered for a 4th term. My recommendation was to reappoint Member Blanchette, which if he is reappointed this evening, that would make 4 regular members, since Member Beach does not want to be considered. Because of that, I recommended moving the 2 alternate members, which are Frank Dalton and Heidi Hales Walker, from their positions as alternate members to regular members. Frank Dalton, I called both of them. He does have experience that is requested to have experience in technical code. He does have that. Ms. Walker does not, but she asked for a commission waiver and said that she's a quick learner and she's willing to learn. She would like to become a regular member. If that's the case and commission does reappoint Member Blanchette and move both of the alternate members to regular members, then we would have 6 regular members and 1 vacancy for a regular member, 2 vacancies for the alternate.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're
Is there a
welcome.
requirement to have a builder's trade board? Just
I believe so in the code book, yes.
That's what I recall, because
Yes.
this would have been a good example of something, but we do by code have to have it. So
That's correct.
tonight, I think we need to resolve the issue. We're not going to change the code tonight. So is there a motion to reappoint Joe Blanchett Jr. with a waiver from the city commission for a 4th term?
I make a motion to accept all the recommendations of the city clerk and make all the appointments.
That
All
work?
3.
Second.
Kelly, call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please send a letter out to Mr. Beach thanking him for his service and welcome aboard Joe for your 4th term, Frank Dalton and Heidi Hales Walker as being official members.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Mayor and Commission reports, starting down there with you.
Well, I have only one. I would like placed on the next agenda for discussion a recommendation for the commission to have the planning and zoning staff develop a land development or regulation to require all PUDs to have park space. I would like that on the agenda. I haven't said it very properly, but I want to talk about it, and you all know what I'm talking about.
You know, I usually bellyache about adding things on until we finish, but I absolutely agree that needs to be
That's why
addressed.
I agree with you. That's why I'm not asking for it now.
And so it's, the request is to have it as a discussion item. You on the next agenda, or is it, let's give some time?
I'm not asking them to provide a product at the next meeting. I'm not comfortable springing this request on the commission at this time. I would like it to be an actual discussion that we have as to what extent we want to revise the ordinances, and then direct the staff to do it.
Okay, so make sure I understand. You're not asking for staff to present or talk about anything other than maybe some indirect questions at the time. You
Correct.
just want to have a discussion on it.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
that's my only comment.
I think there's a majority, majority agreement on that, so.
What does the agenda look like for the workshop? Pretty full now?
I haven't seen the final agenda for the workshop.
Okay.
So, but I'll relay that to Khaled in the morning.
Maybe, if there's time permitting, maybe we could throw something in then. If he wants to bring it up at that time.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Clody, any more? Any other further comments?
He said just one.
1 second. I
But
might
he's-
change my mind. If somebody else could go ahead.
the
I could
famous hand.
read what I wrote to myself here. So, on 4-20. No, I have no further comments at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacks?
So, gentlemen, you know about home rule and what the state has been doing to us. We're kind of between a rock and a hard place. We have very nice legislators, Senator Leak, he's a houseman. Mr. Leak, Tom Wright, Senator from Florida, and Mike Waltz, the House in Washington. I think these are gentlemen that the people need to contact to get back to Tallahassee, to tell them to leave us alone. We know how to run our city. We know how to take care of our trees. We can certainly try to be fair with property owners and look at the reasonability of why they should take trees, but we're losing a vital resource in our city. I had a nice discussion with our city attorney about having on staff a peer review position of an arborist who will review arborist reports for tree removals, especially historic trees. It seems like they've taken that away too. We can't even preserve historic trees for any reason. I've seen an example of one of the reports from an arborist. And, you know, if you hire somebody to do a job for you, he's going to tell you what you want to hear. If you say you want the tree down, he's going to find a way to take the tree down. So I mentioned all this to Carrie, and I said, Counselor, can we have our own arborist as a consultant to peer review applications from arborists that declare you can take this tree, you can take because of this, because of that, for whatever reason. I think you did counter by saying, well, we're challenging. If we do that, we challenge the arborist. And maybe I caught your message wrong. It seemed like we were not doing something proper by challenging these
So,
reports.
putting the budgetary portion of it aside, you could have that for when they come in, like on this agenda, we had a historic tree removal. They come in with an arborist report. For those, if you wanted to have somebody on staff, you know, that's a commission budget decision, but it's not going to apply to like the residential property owner who gets his own report. There's no provision in there to challenge it. All they have to do is possess it. And of course, they did beef up the standards that go into effect July 1 as to when they could take it down. But you could use this arborist on the other ones, you know, commercial properties that come forward with historic tree removal or that type of thing.
Okay, so at this point, as Commissioner Hartman usually says, it's late to ask for consensus or a vote now would not be proper. But I'd like to bring it, I'm going to bring it back to see if there's any appetite to do this. We have to do our best. We've been co-opted by the state on so many levels. And they don't live here. They got beautiful trees in Tallahassee they're not taking down, okay? They don't live by the same rules that they make us live by. We're losing a valuable resource, and every guy who calls himself an arborist can come in with a report and just say, take the tree. You know, we got to protect ourselves. So, again, House Representative Mike Waltz, Tom Leake from the Florida House, and Senator Tom Wright. Those are the people, my good fellows and residents, neighbors, constituents, that's who you have to contact to tell them to stop attacking our ordinances on protecting trees. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. Commissioner Hartman?
I have two things. The mayor and I attended Jimmy Harrell's funeral on Saturday. You know, it was really, from all the testimony, it's a shame that I didn't get to know him better, because he truly was a wonderful person, was a great community leader, you know, was a great family man, and did some wonderful things for the historic West Side. The other thing is, I'd like to commend Kelly on getting her certificate. That's quite an accomplishment that she's gone through. I know it was one of her goals that she had when she first got hired here, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Just a few comments, both unfortunately about the same thing. I wanted to thank staff for setting up the memorial for former Mayor Jim Vandergriff. We used the Brandon Center, and number of staff put a lot of time into making that happen. And I specifically want to thank the city manager for not only allowing this to happen, but the nice comments he made. We had former Mayor Hathaway, who served with him as a commissioner for many years. And I just want to recognize, you know, the nice event that was put together for former Mayor Vandergriff. I also wanted to say, unfortunately, I missed the Jimmy Harrell Memorial, and I was, very disappointed that I had to miss that. I had some family issues come up, but a great man, a great part of this city, and he will never be forgotten. So God rest his soul, and hopefully we'll have a lot more men like him in the community moving forward. All right, city manager report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I've just heard from the city manager the item that Commissioner Colodi brought up regarding the park space and PUDs will be on the workshop agenda of 4:20. The only other item on that agenda is ARPA discussion. So if the commission is comfortable with that, we'll have that on the workshop agenda for 4:20.
So are you comfortable with removing it off the next agenda and just having it on the workshop?
Yes.
Okay.
Just an update on a couple of things. Just a reminder, the public meeting for the proposed intersection improvements at Flagler and Peninsula is scheduled for 4/14 at 5:30 p.m. at the Coronado Civic Center. And the commission workshop, obviously, on the 20th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., followed by a shade meeting. You have the balance of the city manager report. I will answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Make sure I go in order here. City clerk report.
No report, sir. Thank you.
City attorney report.
Just a quick one, and I can probably get it done before 10:30. If you remember, there's the class action litigation regarding opioid, the pandemic. We've previously entered into the settlement sign-ons for Janssen and Endo. There's 3 more in the pipeline: CVS, Teva, and Allergan. The one for CVS, we would be projected to get around $68,000. Teva would be around $27,000, and Allergan would be $19,000. Just looking for authorization for the city manager to execute the documents necessary for that sign-on to those settlement agreements.
Anyone opposed to that? All right, I think we have a consensus
Let the
here.
minutes reflect authority for a manager to do that. Thanks. That's all.
All right, there's no further business. This meeting is going to be adjourned at 10:27 p.m.